All right, welcome everybody. This is our show, Conspiracy or Not, Here We Come. I'm Aaron, and with my pal Ian and our cohort Amy, as usual, I'm very pleased to be joined tonight with Jerry Cthulhu and Niish from SpeculumNin Niish, and I hope I pronounced that correctly. Did I?
Yes, you nailed it.
Getting your Latin on.
That's right.
We're going to get our Latin on tonight. Jerry and Niish are the hosts of a new interview series called Mente, otherwise known as Night Mind, where they interview people on their dreams and their position on consciousness and their experiences as dreamers. And I'm really fascinated by this series of interviews. I think Niish is an excellent interviewer. Jerry is a friend of ours. He runs several shows. He's also not only part of the Mente show, but right after we're done, Jerry will be starting up his regular Friday show called Hive Live. So welcome, Jerry and Niish.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks for having us.
Welcome, Jerry and Niish. Hola.
Amen.
Everybody in the
Hugs
chat.
all around, everyone.
Yeah.
Yes, a round of hugs.
That's it. That's it.
Well, I'm really glad to have you guys on. This is going to be a departure from our normal, typical conspiratorial conversations that we have. I'm happy to have a break from just all the horrible shit that's going on in the world. We're going to be talking about consciousness. We're going to be talking about dreams. Niish is going to get her chance to be interviewed on the same line of questioning that she used. We're going to be talking about dreams, and I'm going to be talking to her. She's a really excellent interviewer, and she's really insightful. Jerry is a wealth of information from all kinds of fields, and I'm just excited to have you guys with us. But right now, I wanted to say again hello to Ian, my pal, because, Ian, this is show number 61, dude. Remember you and I started just on our couches, just me and you chatting on Fridays.
Yep. Drinking beer, smoking it up, and chatting away.
Yeah. This is show number, we've had some amazing interviews, right? We've had some really heavy hitter guests on here. And this has turned into something pretty cool. It's a lot more than I thought. I really enjoyed hanging out with you.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. It's been great. We've learned a lot. We've met a lot of great people. I always give kudos to the people in the chat who make this show even that much better. So thanks, everybody. We're happy. I think it's been about a year now that we've had Amy with us. I think probably around our anniversary, right about this time. So
somewhere in that vicinity, yes.
Yep.
Almost. She's been with us almost the whole time. So we love you guys, and I appreciate your consistency, your honesty, your openness, your wealth of information and knowledge base, your perspectives. You guys are awesome, and I appreciate it. So congratulations, show 61.
Yahoo!
Woohoo!
That's pretty good right there.
I wish we were on show 66.
Aww. Well, next time maybe we'll have you back on the 66.
61 is good. It's a 7.
It's a 7,
Lucky 7.
Yeah, it's 7. Lucky 7.
Well, I really wanted to have this little conversation with Ian last week. It was show 60, but as per usual, I often forget to say things if I don't write it down. Take their own little turns here and there, and I'm sure you guys know how it is.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
So, with that, show 66, we're going to do a special show. We're going to do another numerology show, and we will discuss the 6, the 66, and the 666 on that show. I think that's probably what our plan will be. We had a special 33 roundtable that turned out pretty spectacular. We had a full house. Everybody was here, and we had a whole lot of fun with the number 33. By the way, I'm going to bring up some 33 information this evening regarding our conversation, because we're going to get into dreams and consciousness, and I think that there's a connection to the number 33 specifically. So with that, I want to turn this over to Jerry and Nish and ask you guys right off the bat, how did you, what motivated you guys to do the show where you interview people on dreams? And just by the way, just bring everybody up to speed. If they're not familiar with who you are, give us a little bit of a background, a little bit of bio info. Take it away, Jerry and Nish.
Got bio, jeez.
I
I know,
right? Already, damn, Aaron.
I'm just a guy. I'm a computer program. Yeah, what?
When did you wake up? What woke you up?
I've always been pretty much not buying into anything, that goes on as being, how shall I say this? Like, I was never really part of the system. I've never felt part of that system. Like, it was not for me, So I kind of grew up feeling that outcast feeling as a weird kid. I don't know what you want to call it, but I'm sure you guys were the same way. You just weren't normal kids in your school, and all that goes with that. And you're skeptical, etc. So I was always that way. But life happens, and you get married and have kids and have a job, and you forget about all that shit. And
it comes back.
It comes back in June of 2015. I saw an orb in my backyard, which and I had already started investigating paranormal stuff because I felt there was a connection there between that and UFO sightings and experiences and whatnot. So I had been doing that research, and I was really angry that night. I was watching Simon Parks, believe it or not. And I went out on my back porch, and as I walked through the door, I yelled, why don't I ever get to see a UFO? And then over the house comes this orange orb.
No.
Right on cue, yeah. So I got pictures of it. I sent it to MUFON. I did a MUFON report, and that's the answer you were looking for, Ian. June of 2015. So pretty much everything I've learned about esoteric stuff, the politics, the whole straw man thing, everything I've learned about the alternative stuff has been since then.
Since 2015?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So not too long then.
Yeah, 2.5 years.
Huh.
Oh, okay. So you're either some kind of fantastic information sponge, or you've been hanging on the fringe of this information for a long time, because you have quite a background and knowledge of a lot of esoteric and other fields.
I take option A, sponge.
Yeah, your knowledge is deep.
Yeah, I ingest a lot of material constantly.
You retain it though, also, so you're able to pull it up usually.
Only the good stuff, and the bad. Some of it gets sorted out and thrown away as garbage, of course. But you kind of build a model in your head. At least I have.
How many times have you changed your mind? How many times have you thought, oh, this is the answer, and then later on you discover, it's not really the answer. That was some disinfo. I mean, how many times have you changed your position, changed your opinion on something based on new information that keeps coming at you?
About twice, I think.
Twice? God,
yeah.
I do that almost every month.
I know. I'm constantly swaying in the waves.
So
two times it come to mind. Yeah, go ahead.
When did you wake up, and what triggered you to wake up?
I had, it's hard to answer. My first memories are really vivid of being very conscious as a baby. At about 6 months old, my mother and I figured out, and where I was stuck in baby flesh, and that's a whole story in and of itself. And I was, I think, fortunate now enough to have been to rebel, then fostered into my brother's house, so I didn't have access to them also. So this, if you know that narrative in stories, it created this whole crack from the beginning for me, where I was questioning, why, I want my mom, who is my father, I'm in this house, they don't like me, and treated poorly. And so I was set as an outsider kind of from the onset. And so that just snowballed this idea of memories that I cannot pull back still, which is kind of one of the reasons Mente was born, trying to piece things together in my life. and then being constantly not loved, and you know, and that whole abandonment thing. And so I just grew up in those waters. And then as I got older and able to come into my own, I was able to get away. I ran away. I'm one of those runaways. And when I finally was able to get away and just be myself, I found that it was always, for lack of a better term, the freaks that were my people. And in those waters, I was, you're open to a lot of alternate ideas about the world and playing in the world and asking questions and why should I have to get on the hamster wheel? And so I think, to answer your question, yeah, it was just, I feel like maybe that was part of my predominant playbook when I came into this earth, into this life, into this dream reality early on. So 6 months old. That's my answer.
So you're like most of the rest of us, that you've had at least something from the very beginning that has set you apart from the rest of the crowd or herd, as it were.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I am definitely treated, no matter what and how hard I tried at different times to maybe fit in, like to in jobs, in offices, and bartending was great because you can just be yourself. I was still somehow treated differently. People perceived me in a different light. And so I've noticed it in the world of nature. I feel like maybe sometimes my energy is more, even though I am a bubbly, friendly person and an introvert, but I notice when I look at the natural world, I see how, say a fox comes into the chicken coop, right? I'm set aside. There's an energy, there's a gaminess to me that immediately puts me aside from polite company, no matter how nice I am. They see my luster whites.
We were discussing just before we went live, Jerry was talking about how and by the way, those who don't know Jerry, he films the moon on a regular basis, and you can, what's it called? The Moon Files is your series of videos that you upload.
Yep.
And the Sun Files.
He puts this really awesome, throwback old music on it. It's really good, relaxing stuff. And he just films the moon and the sun also with his new camera, P90, right? You got a P900?
Yeah, it's 60 space rock, like Enoch Light Orchestra.
Well, it was really interesting that you were telling me that your neighbor came out and she was mystified. She was like, "What are you doing?" And you said, "I'm filming the moon," right? Tell us that story again, because I think it's kind of relevant, because especially the conclusion that I came to after you said that.
It is, and it also shows a lot of the paranoid nature of people. Yeah, I'm in my garage because it's windy, so I'm filming up, and the moon happens to be over her house at this time. So she's walking her dog and I'm filming, and from her vantage point, the camera's pretty much pointing at her house. So she asked me, are you making a movie? And I said, no, I'm filming the moon. And she looks up and she didn't see the moon, and it's still daylight, and she couldn't see it because she was behind a tree. And I said, she's like, "What moon?" And she says it real accusing, like, "What moon? You're lying to me." I'm like, "No." And I said, "Take 3 steps to your left." And she walks over. She goes, "Oh, there it is." And she goes, "You're filming the moon, huh?" She shakes her head and walks away. It was kind of crazy.
Right. And you remember what I said after you told me that some people just sort of wander through life.
Yes, right.
And never
without questioning
have much of a curiosity about anything, really.
Yeah. It's sad. It's the way. That's why we're in this position.
Right, and her curiosity about me filming wasn't about like the interest in what I was doing. It was more how you're doing it at me. It's an attack. Are you filming me? Is what she wanted to know.
Right.
Okay.
So she wasn't curious about her environment or what I was doing or anything. It was more, what are you doing that's affecting me?
Right.
So Niish, you said something. You said what? Freaks are your people?
Yeah.
Do you think that's probably because they're not as judgmental? And so I've had experiences as well, and I've had my own periods in my life where I sort of identified more with the outcasts of society, the freaks, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And they tend to not be so judgmental,
Right.
not
Well,
so superficial.
You have no choice. I mean, you can be judgmental and be an outsider, certainly, but you're still thrown in. You're still not fitting in. So it's this energy. No matter how hard you try and how polite. I mean, I certainly get on in society just fine, and there is a gravitational kind of effect because I do maintain a nice demeanor. But I think people still sense something about me. I don't know what that is. And I noticed that with other people that question reality, and hence the freaks tag, not to trigger anyone, but I love that tag. And, but I have personally gone through periods of time where I found it frustrating and was judgmental myself about herd mentality. People who never question anything, they just move from here to there on this trajectory without questioning anything, absolutely nothing. And it frustrates me to no end that is the norm.
Yep.
It's all based on fear, right? It's afraid of saying anything to be labeled a nut job, right? Or
but do some of I think some of them are not
so.
even that conscious.
That's right.
And that they've been indoctrinated so heavily that they don't see that the spoon's on the chair. They'll never see that the spoon's on the chair. It's just a chair. And, it's just, things are just as they are, as they're told they are.
What were you going to say, Amy?
I was just agreeing there.
That scene in The Matrix where he says to Neo, the trick isn't to try to bend the spoon, but to realize the truth. And the truth is there is no spoon. Referring to these people who wander through life, I would suggest that they also see that there is no spoon when in fact there actually is a spoon. They just don't notice it.
Right. I always inverse that one.
Yeah.
Before we leave the intros, I wanted to mention that the Nox Mente show was completely Nish's idea. We developed it together, and I do the tech end, but it was all her idea, and she came up with it. And she's the
well, Jerry was the
it.
only person this is kind of an interesting story. I think this is valid. So I had about, I don't know the time frame. I'm terrible with linear stuff. Somebody tell me how old I am. No, thank you.
It was, it would be 16 weeks ago.
I had called out to the universe that I feel a little bit more, I'm in a searching mode, and all of a sudden Jerry drops into my world out of nowhere. I'm not sure where I met him, what chat, in what video, I don't know.
A chanter hangout.
Most likely, yes. And so it was just, I don't know, this idea of let's talk about altered states of consciousness, gates of perception, multi-dimensions, and how everything ties in or maybe not, dreams, death, memory. And so I asked Jerry if he would do that with me, and here we are.
I found it to be an amazing coincidence that I was hanging out on Jerry's Hive show, and this is a couple of months ago. And I suggested to those guys at the end, after several hours of banter, and by the way, Jerry, you really, I meant what I said. You do have the coolest friends on the internet. I said to those guys that we should, it was just an idea that I have been mulling over for years and years. I've tried to get my friends and occasionally some of my family members to try to intentionally have the same dream. And
yes.
I don't just mean, once. I mean like an ongoing project, a group of people who intentionally tried to have the same kinds of dream or the same dream or to meet each other in a dream. And so I brought that up on Jerry's show, and it wasn't, 2 or 3 weeks later, I think you guys had started Nox Mente. So Jerry, you correct me. Were you guys doing that before I had brought that up?
No.
Was it just a weird coincidence? Because You know, you guys interviewed me pretty quickly after you started. What was I, your second or third interview, right?
Yeah, it had to have been before because you would have known. We didn't hide it or anything. We told everyone.
No, I'm not suggesting.
I mean, you would have known about it if we had started already. So I don't think we'd actually talked about it at that point.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe that's why I'm, you know, so interested in what you guys are doing over there, because I myself am very interested in dreams and consciousness and how they relate and what information can be gleaned.
I'm interested in deja vus. I'd like to know more about deja vu.
Absolutely. We talk.
It's almost prophetic, like, and it intrigues me.
Well, before we move on further, I would like to tag in on what Aaron was saying here. I think, Aaron, one of the things is that it's somehow in our collective now, in the cloud, whatever, where so we've been questioning this reality. We've been parsing out all the options and all that. And now let's try and explore something that we all experience. Let's try using the dream experience as a gateway to meeting up, to possibly waking up at a deeper level. And so, you know, it was, I think if Jerry and I hadn't actually done this, someone else would have.
Because everyone steals our good ideas.
Well, but we jumped on it, and so that's what I'm saying. It's like it's in the ethers. It feels like this is the time to start maybe trying to hone our skills together. And the first thing we do is start talking.
Right. You know, I'm happy to have you guys here because we're not going to be talking about horrible false flags and fake shootings and horrible corruption or
Dude,
terrible.
How many times were in the Vegas shooting? I'm kidding.
But, you know, what's interesting is that this evening and what you guys do at Nox Mente, we're, you know, talking about dreams and consciousness, I would suggest that is probably one of the biggest conspiracies of all.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fact that we are not, this is one of the reasons we're dumbed down. You know, besides being able to control people when they're stupid, you don't want people exploring their own natural, perhaps psychic abilities. And we all, I'm pretty sure that I doubt anybody on this panel would disagree. I'm pretty sure that we're all have these abilities. And I dare you to find me one human being that has not had a similar experience to this. You think about your friend and you haven't talked to him in a while, and you go to pick up the phone to call them, and before you reach for the phone, it rings and it's them.
Or you get a text from them, or
Yes.
you pick up the phone and you know it's them. Yeah. Everybody's
Yep,
psychic. They just don't know how to tune into it.
Right. And I've always, even since I'm a teenager, way before I was into, you know, research and conspiracy stuff, I've always been interested in my own consciousness and those types of connections. And I don't remember if I told you the story, Nish, when you interviewed me. I'm in my brother's car. I was a teenager, maybe 16, 17, and he was 4 years older than me, and we were riding to work together. We worked at the same place, and there was a long moment of silence, and I was just thinking to myself, and in my head, I said in my head, I didn't speak it, I said Scott, which is his name, by the way. I said Scott, but I said it in my head. I didn't utter a word. And at that very instant, he turned to me and he said, "What?"
That is, it's exactly,
Nice.
it's exactly it. That it's the power. Well,
My
that
cats
isn't
do
this
that to
the
me, you know?
point of dreaming? We already go into that state with suspension of disbelief happening because we allow ourselves the freedom in dream time to do whatever, be whatever. And so somehow whatever gravity is holding us down here, it's more questionable. And that it, like, I should be able to pop up and fly, pop over. We should be able to all pop over and have a cocktail together or something. In a dream, we can do that. And so the suspension of disbelief that allows all that to blossom is somehow stifled here. And then you have these experiences like you just told us, which is a crack in the armor of this experience we're having. You say Scott in your head, and he says what out loud? Amazing.
So your icon, is that Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers?
No, that looks like it's Clairbeau, isn't it?
Clairbeau and her, I forgot the guy's name, Richard Steele, like Dick Steele or something like that.
Yeah, I'm using our channel instead of my actual channel.
Did you know you were doing that?
I didn't know, Jerry.
Okay, I didn't think so. I was going to tell you, but I figured, yeah, she doesn't know. Okay.
It's all right.
Yeah, so you have a no. Please go ahead and finish.
Well, and so that is like, that's what I think in this as we're going down this collective questioning of the narratives happening around us with all these false flags and what's from everything to questioning flat earth to questioning beings from other places, all of it. We are now at a place where it seems like once we invert this and try to meet up in dreamland or try to exercise a muscle that somehow I think we still have access to, these other senses that we have in our dreams that are us, we are them, that are us maybe separate from our vessels, whatever is going on, we actually have a portal. And so if we can do it in a dream, then all of a sudden there's this, it's like a germination within us that sprouts through in this state of consciousness that we're in. And so I learned to belly dance in my dreams. I wanted to belly dance. I didn't have any teachers around me at the time. And all of a sudden I'm belly dancing and temple dancing in my dream years and years ago. And I would wake up in the night and I would be, my boyfriend at the time loved it. I was like doing these moves and all of a sudden I had the moves. So then when I went to take real lessons, I was like, I know this shimmy. I know this S curve. This happened in my dream.
Really?
Let's take this to a deeper level. Let's start untapping.
You've worn a still suit before, huh?
I guess so. So
you get the reference?
The steel suit?
The still suit. Jerry, you get the reference?
From Dune, yeah. It's
from Dune.
The Fremen.
The still, right. Yes.
Yeah, where there's that scene where
you drink your pee.
I love Dune, by the way. The weirding, and yeah, I love Dune.
You have the weirding way.
Oh yeah, I think we all love Dune.
Yes.
Dune is a really good model of the universe that we live in, with the houses and the way that the spice is, an allegory for either oil or drugs. You can take it however you want. How it's tightly controlled. It's just a really well done series.
Yeah, absolutely. Decades and decades ahead of its time.
And Frank Herbert was, of course, Freemason, so I mean, it's probably part of the narrative too.
Well, it's interesting that you equated the spice with an oil, and I'm gonna come back around to that at some point. Hopefully, it doesn't get lost in the conversation. But I did want to ask Niish, because I've noticed. And I've been listening to as many interviews as I can spare the time to, and I really enjoy your
Thank you for that.
Style, by the way. I really enjoy your style. I've noticed that you have a pretty strong background in astrology.
So here's where I am with anything, literally anything. I'm sorry for my dog. You hear my dog in the background. I have been studying astrology for quite some time, and most of, like a lot of us though, I'm interested in all the oracles and understanding the hidden hand, and astrology certainly plays a role in that. And so, but I have stepped back from owning I've been studying astrology 20 years and this, or tarot for, all these years. Yes. So I'm interested in astrology, and the more I learn, the more I want to know. I think I know more than maybe people reading the sun sign in the paper.
Sure. How do you equate astrology with consciousness, or perhaps how would you define or explain, I suppose, just in your own words, the association between us humans as conscious beings and the positions of these planetary bodies that have their own energetic fields of various kinds.
Okay, that's difficult. I think I guess maybe to lay the foundation, I've always had this thought before I started study. It's kind of what led me into trying to understand the celestial, whatever they are, bodies, and through the natal charts, through the Vedic chart, and through the mandala of the Western stuff. And I first thought this was my blueprint, like when you're taking a college course, right, the next semester, and you line up your classes. I had this feeling that this is what I did somehow. So the hard angles, the T-square, you know, all the hard stuff, I feel like I chose this set of courses, and to somehow fulfill whatever is going on that's bigger than my flesh as Nish here, and this little drama that's playing out that is my little bubble of a conscious life experience in gravity here. So that said, I moved into thinking about the ancient stuff. Well, the planets are gods. And then it distilled down into, like, through alchemy and all this, like, well, the gods are really energetic. They're energy, and what is energy, right? And then how does you get into chemistry with it. Well, this one reacts to this one in this way, and it's pretty stable, pretty you can count on it. And so but then I came full circle, and here I am again. I still think that is a blueprint. And as we change, like our progressions and the returns and stuff are how we're moving through this set of courses. Maybe you have accelerated, maybe you have, so you've accelerated, you unlocked a deeper level through the hard aspects, you know, some of the squares and oppositions, and then you get like this, like in a video game, there's like, oh, there's a magical knife. You know, I learned that lesson. So here's a little something for the hardship here, which we call here in this dimension, in this reality, wisdom. Right. Mm-hmm. So like, oh, I hit that rock 1,000,000 times. I keep hitting that rock. That rock is there. Like every time I get angry about this same exact experience with someone else and it doesn't change, well, I'm the fool for thinking that is something I can change. And so then I change within myself and move around that. I don't know if that answered it. I felt like I'm ranty. I'm not usually interviewed, so this is so strange.
No, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
But when you mentioned science and gravity and that, I mean gravity hasn't even been proven yet, and because everybody made a stink about it, then they came out and said, "Oh, look, we found gravitational waves." And then the other day, I seen an article as well stating that NASA discovered something caused by a gravitational wave.
Yes. Well, it's funny.
I remember what it was.
How can you build new theories?
Anybody remember what it was? No.
And
how can you build new theories?
I just want to point out, it's not gravity that has not been proven. We can prove gravity by putting our hand out with something in it, letting go, and seeing it fall.
Yeah,
what
there's
has
something
not
there.
Been proven,
electromagnetic energy.
Been proven. What has not been proven is how it works.
Exactly.
It's electrogravitic.
That's what we're.
Well, that is the proof that we speak of. Gravity unproven.
It's electrogravitics, right, Amy?
It's still a theory.
Well, we do know that there is an unseen force. What you know, we
electromagnetic, the ether.
What the unproven portion is how it actually works, because we have not been able to reproduce it on a laboratory bench.
Right,
well,
and there's two different models.
We can make electromagnetic fields. You know, we can manipulate other kinds of energy that have forces, but we can't make a thing in a building or a laboratory that
you can collect it.
That has gravity. You can
only just collect it. Energy can only be transformed. It can't be changed. Like it can't be destroyed.
I disagree that we have not
manipulated
gravity. I know we have.
I know where you're going, Amy, and you're right. I stand corrected. You're right.
Anyway, I didn't, yeah.
But
All right.
it's
Just when you
in
mentioned
black
science-
projects, and we don't see it out here.
It's just the problem that I see, when people mention how scientifical things that have been spoon-fed to us and throughout history, it's almost like you immediately go down a misinformation highway, right? Like watching Alex Jones, for instance.
Oh, absolutely.
You immediately take a false narrative and move onward with that false narrative, right?
Yes.
Whether or not we know it's false or not, we really don't know, right? But
Well, isn't this the folly of that's part of what this whole experience is. We get a whole bunch of people together that agree on something, and then it makes it more tangible, whether or not it's real. So, and back to that suspension of disbelief. So look at all the false flags. I mean, that is an easy way to look at how we create narrative and drama, and in many ways sustenance to keep us imprisoned. And so theories that the collective has come to agree upon live in that environment as well.
Oh, you mean like climate change?
Right. Oh, there's so much, right? Our whole world is just we're so blinded in here. And everyone's agreeing.
Contrails. It's just contrails.
Yeah, right.
They even
And
had
then
to
there's
they
those
even
of
had to
us-
make it sound even more technical and say they're persistent contrails
Yes.
Yes.
to explain away why they sit there for hours and spread out.
Yes, yes. That's just water vapor. That's it. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Sure.
Right.
Happen to see
Well,
here,
there's this
persistent
thing that
contrail.
happened. It's like,
Yeah.
if I'm a Gen Xer, and so I actually remember the change in the sky. Like it's different. I have
Yes.
I have real memories, right, Amy? Like it was totally different at one point, and now
It was
it's
Heartbreakingly blue sky,
gorgeous.
and now it's sort of a steel gray blue.
yeah, it's never truly blue anymore.
No,
just
it's
a
almost
hazy-
hazy. Yes.
hazy blue. Yep, all the time.
Ish. You never
Yes.
see that heartbreakingly blue sky anymore, ever.
It was amazing. I
Sad.
mean, it was breathtaking. The memories that in my paintings, I always try to go back to my memory of how the sky looked. And so the skies on my paintings are that blue. But you show that now to people who've come up into this reality that has changed before our eyes, and they don't, they think it's like a fantasy painting. Like it's it's like, no, it used to be this way. And there are millions of paintings behind me through our whatever our history is right now that also show the sky looking this way. Blue.
Yeah.
You got to
when
look
you-
at the percentage of people
Vibrant
who don't look up in the sky these days too, and have no
Mm.
idea what's going on. You
I
had a certain percentage of those in the past too. It's not a new thing.
true.
Right, but it is more so now with, of course, the technology slant, the phones in particular.
Yeah,
I,
totally. Nobody looks up ever.
You sparked a memory for me when you said your paintings. My mother is an artist, and she raised me to be an artist. And when I was a teenager and a young kid growing up, I did a lot of art with her, various kinds, from pencil drawing to oil painting. And I remember when I was learning to oil paint, one of the things that she was teaching me was light and shadow. And one of the subjects, there were three of our main subjects. We loved rocks. I personally loved trees, and together her and I loved clouds. So we would notice all the time the highlights and the shadows, the way light would interact with clouds. And we did a lot of drawings and paintings of clouds. So I'm with you, Nish. I'm in my mid 40s, and I remember the days before our skies were just saturated. But anyway,
But
we're
I
not
want
here
to
to.
point on that, Aaron, though, that first of all, how wonderful that you have that with your mother. And one of the gifts of that, the artist eye, is you actually are trained to look at look at things around you, and so you actually you see that there are actually purples and shadows, and contrasting. So you are immediately looking at the world differently than people that are not being trained to actually to deconstruct it.
That's right.
So that was a gift, Aaron, from your mother.
Well, that was a good observation, especially the way you said that you're trained to deconstruct. You nailed it right there. That's exactly what you're trained to do as an artist, is to literally deconstruct everything that you see, from every highlight to every shadow, every line.
Absolutely.
What's in front, what's in back, perspective, perception, all
yes, depth, all of it.
So earlier I asked you about your astrology background. We know that the moon affects women's menstrual cycle. So there's actually solid physical scientific evidence.
Do we know that?
Yeah.
I think you should definitely get into the moon with Jerry.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that there were actually any studies that proved it.
Yes. And not only does the moon govern the menstrual cycle of women, but it also governs when certain animal species, like coral, for instance, coral will release their spores on, I forget what day of the month it is, a particular time of the year, and a very specific day. And it's absolutely, without a doubt, correlated to where the position of the moon is. It's the full moon or the first new moon or something like that, when all the corals on a whole hemisphere worth of coral will release their spores on that one specific evening. So, I mean, my point is that the celestial bodies, there's some scientific background to suggest that we are affected by their position. So I think a lot of people poo-poo the astrology because they check out the horoscope, and then anybody with two brain cells that they could rub together will say, oh, well, this horoscope is the same as my horoscope's the same as Gemini, which is the same as Leo. They're all the general bullshit that anybody's going to go through. So, I mean, that's the surface, and then most people will poo-poo it and it won't look any further.
Right.
Well, people forget, like, especially the Vedic stuff. And then if we move into Asia as well, other parts of it, deep in, like China, and that people have been looking at whatever it is, they've been observing the sky for a very long time and noting patterns. And the patterns are kind of what it's all based on. Like, these have innate energies. So like the pine tree has this energy, and you can eat the sap, you can eat the bark, so there's just, through long-term observance. And again, in this reality that we find ourselves in, where time has it's linear. Yes. I don't believe in linear time, but I think it's more cyclical, of course. I don't even know what time is, but there's observed patterns, and astrology in my life, through studying it, has maintained those boundaries. I get a real feel from and it could be the collective agreement of what Pluto stands for, right? I get a real feel for Pluto, and then when it moves into a certain sector, a house or a sector in the sky, certain things seem to happen, seem to be cast by its shadow. There's a flavor that happens, and we associate these dark things with Pluto and occultish things, and we can look back and then look at historical events as we see them now and say, whoa, here was this planet, they were in whatever aspect, conjoined or conjuncting or whatever, and these events happened. 200 years later, these same type of events happened. So I agree with you, Aaron. I guess that's my long agree.
I can't disagree with any of that. I would only add that there are no guarantees regarding the astrological positions. However, the probabilities are affected. Like, I suppose the best, most relatable example I can come up with is back to the menstrual cycle of women. There's no guarantee that your wife turns into a bitch, but it's more probable.
Yes, right.
You know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
Look at Mercury retrograde. If you want examples.
I will just say that I do know that crimes increase.
Thank you, Amy. I was just going to say that. Yes, I was going to say, ask any cop, look at any police statistic, and then compare it with where the moon was. This is a real thing. And that's why, by the way, for those who like the etymology, that's where we get the word lunatic from.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, these are the patterns. So imagine studying this for having generations, thousands of years of studying it in India and in China, and like they start saying, well, maybe there's something to this.
Broke up. You dropped out. Couldn't hear you.
Oh, sorry. I think
India, China is the last thing I heard.
Just so we observe that the police, just in modern history, we observe crime on full moons, and if women are not around a lot of electromagnetic disturbances, they'll sync up with their menses and all that. But just put that in the filter of long observed civilizations like in India and in China, where so you're just born into it, whether it's an indoctrination or not, a society that has long legs as far as observance of natural phenomena. So their suspension of disbelief is already like, well, these things happen, and they start making plans around these kinds of things. The full moon's coming, or full moon's coming. Women are going to take a break off. Mm-hmm. We're going to take a break. The red tent thing, right? We're taking a break. We don't want to kill anyone. It's just better. We're going to sit around and tell stories and all this, and just have some space. Yeah. I'm deeply interested in what Jerry has to say about the moon, and through his moon files, if you've been observing them, how is it that with that camera he can get that kind of detail on something that is supposed to be so far away? It's astounding.
Have you seen any buildings or anything on there, Jerry? Oh, you're on mute.
I was muted. I'm sorry. What was the question? Have I seen any buildings? I see lots of buildings.
Yeah, on the moon.
Oh no, not on the moon. No, I haven't seen but craters.
Like any structures or anything?
No, never.
Can you?
Doesn't mean they're not there. I can get pretty close. I mean,
I'll have to check.
Yeah, my camera is a Nikon P900. I think Aaron said that earlier. It has an 83 times optical zoom, and then 4 levels of doubling on top of that. So I can look 83 times. Yeah, it's really crystal clear, and you can see amazing detail with it. And to me, that just tells me that, my observation has been that the moon can't be 250,000 miles away if I can see it that clearly.
Well,
the same goes for the sun. I could see sunspots and things like that are allegedly 93 million miles away, which...
Well, that's the sun, right? Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah, that number is suspicious to me because that number is the number of time.
How so?
No, that's the number of Saturn.
Saturn is the time.
It's 96 is the number, is the speed of Saturn. Are you talking about the number or the speed?
The number is related to time.
Gematria of Saturn. Okay. 93.
Okay. Yeah, and it's just Freemasonic encoding in the solar system. It's the whole heliocentric model is this crazy perfect system that works, right? But it's got all these encodings in it, like these planets and the gematria of the planets' names and all that. Yeah, but back to physical, what I can observe, I cannot believe that it's that far away, that I can see it. And the only difference between my pictures, the ones I take and the ones that they have on the NASA space weather site of the sun, like the GOES satellites, are that theirs are sharper. It's the exact same level of detail and everything. It's pretty crazy.
It's astounding, and it makes you question really what's going on.
I ponder whether scale is being taken into effect, because we're dealing with some fairly decently sized bodies.
Assuming, yeah, exactly, Amy. And I was going to try to frame it similar the way you just did. Assuming that what we're told is correct, that the moon is 22,160 miles in diameter. Jerry, your video, you still have the entire moon in frame. So assuming that those numbers that we're told are true, you're still looking at, even though you're getting an incredible detail, it's far more than your naked eye would see. And I question whether or not it's simply an amazement factor that you're going, wow, you're seeing things that you can't see with your eye that's much more clear and much more detailed and stable. But nevertheless, let's just say that the number is true, that it is 2,160 miles in diameter. Then if your Nikon could zoom in much, much further, then, you know, to the point where maybe one crater consumed the entire frame, then you're just going to get more and more and more and more detail. You know what I mean? So, I mean, just simply being amazed at the detail, it's not
that I'm amazed. It's more our eyes physically can't see that far. So what is it about this camera that's allowing me to see that far? It's more of a
magnification.
Is it physically possible? Like, you cannot see more than 3 or 4 miles when you're, you know, in the desert, just put it that way, right? And if something is 250,000 miles away, regardless of how big it is, do you think the light is going to get back to you, if we're going to go with their model, you know, perfectly all the time?
I'm going to say that yes, because what you have going for you is when you're looking laterally, you've got an awful lot of dust and air particles that are all fairly thick. And when you look upwards, it gets thin pretty quickly. And so you're only, you know, at a mile up, you're much, much thinner in atmosphere than you are in the middle of the desert at roughly, give or take, sea level.
I get all that, and I cannot argue it scientifically because I don't have all the facts yet. It's more of a matter of angular resolution of the human eyeball, which I believe is 0.02 degrees or 0.2 degrees. And at that angular resolution, you would not be able to see things that far away.
Well,
when you say things, we need to be more specific.
What is what I said? I can't argue. I can't argue right now.
If I had a ball and held in my hand like a basketball, roughly 12 inches, you know, in diameter, you know, you're only going to see that ball at a certain distance, to the point where perspective shrinks it to a single, you know, pixel or less, where you're not going to see it. If I had the same ball, except I was holding a ball that was maybe 10 feet in diameter, well, by comparison, I could go a lot farther before you can't see it anymore. So obviously, the larger it is, more likely you're going to be able to see it.
Right. And the moon is only the size of what, half the United States, or the whole United? Yeah, half, right?
2,160 miles in diameter, the moon is.
That's actually closer to almost the full United States.
Let's call it the size of the United States. So can you think you can see something the size of the United States that's 250,000 miles away?
No.
I don't either.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, well, do you see did I share my screen properly?
No.
Not seeing anything.
All right. I was going to show you my.
The moon itself has several of its own very, very strange attributes. Not only is it proportional to the Earth, which correlates to the proportions of the human body in some very remarkable ways. But, you know,
there's a whole bunch of stuff.
There, you know, that whole thing about we only get to see one side and we never get to see the other side.
It doesn't turn, right?
No. See,
that's
a misconception. That's a misconception, Ian. It does turn. It does rotate.
No, It does not rotate.
No, it
Yes, it
doesn't
does.
rotate.
Yes, it
That's
does.
why there's the dark side of the moon.
Oscillates.
No, it rotates.
It rotates around the Earth, always facing the Earth. So in that,
It
yes,
rotates
goes
at the
around
same
the Earth, but it
speed
faces
as its orbit.
Oh,
It
Which is-
orbits and it rotates at exactly the same synchronized speed, so that as it orbits, its rotation always keeps one side facing us. But you get both rotation and orbit.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
so yeah, I see what you're saying. In free space, it's rotating. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Are you still working on a screen share? Do you want to show us?
No, I give up. I gave up. I was just going to show you the sunspot, but it's no big deal.
Oh.
I can put the links in chat. You guys can check it
Okay.
out yourselves. It's the September 4th and 6th. It's actually the days that big X class flare, which was a 9.3, by the way, left the sun.
Well, go ahead. Let's see it. Since
I
we're on-
can't screen share it, but I can. I already closed the window
You just can't screen share because
because it wasn't working.
you're hitting that green button up there on the left.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. It's not working for you.
No, because I'm being penalized for using Linux.
Oh,
Oh man, that's a crying shame.
Shit doesn't work. You know, that's the way it goes.
oh. Well, it's on your channel, right? I'll go get it and look.
I know. I was getting the time for you. Hold on one second.
All right. Well, let me hop over your channel and we'll just
I got it right here for you.
subject. Let me see. I'm go back over here.
So this X flare happened right in that same time frame as the Vegas stuff, right, Jerry? That
No,
one.
no, no.
This
not
one's
at all.
different. Okay.
Not at all. The Vegas stuff happened October 1st, 10/1. This was in September. It was a month before.
Oh, okay. It was with those big earthquakes.
Yeah, it was around the same time. It was after all the earthquakes. It was before Harvey.
But it's post eclipse.
Yes, post eclipse.
It's kind of what I'm getting at. Yeah.
Definitely post eclipse. Post apocalypse.
I like that.
I know, that was great.
Which what day are we looking for, Jerry?
I got it right here. September 4th. Where do you want it? Where's it? Damn it. Here you go. But I think it might be on the 6th. Just the next day.
All right.
It's that day. That's the right day, I think.
All right. I'm just waiting for it to pull up here.
Yeah, that's the day I did the close-up of it. I caught him the day before too, but I didn't do a close-up like that. When the chemtrails are really thick, I can get really good shots of the sun, like in this you'll see.
All right. Okay. I can screen share now.
And so it just I don't know the science behind this at all, but the fact that his camera that you can get at like Best Buy can get this kind of detail when we all hover to the ISO and all this, I don't know. So it opens up a lot of questions in my mind about distance and this reality between us and the celestial bodies.
Yeah, and that's totally what I've been thinking about too. It's at 41 seconds. You can see. There you go.
That is awesome.
That is
You know,
awesome.
I just can't believe that it's 93 million miles away. It's like
Well,
I need to travel that
I
distance now.
I can. What you've got to think about is, you know, how many planet Earths can you fit into that sunspot?
I don't know. I don't buy that
fair
Kool-Aid.
few.
I don't
A
buy that
fair
Kool-Aid
few.
that it's a million
Yeah,
times
that's
bigger
the
than
point,
Earth.
Amy. I mean, we're told that it's that big, and Jerry is just making the point that through certain observation, it just doesn't look that. You know, I'm I'm not prepared to argue with him on this subject. That's not what we're here for tonight. But the point he's making, it has some validity. It's hard to imagine it being.
Well,
I'm just looking at it the other way. I'm not saying it is one way or the other. I'm open to it being actually 93 million miles away. I just find it highly suspect that all these things are perfectly aligned in the same sizes and at these distances, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
what I'm going to say as far as the distances, they're probably a little off, but not enough to make a huge difference. The only reason they're off is that they selected the numbers that were significant. The moon and the sun, the same size in the sky. My theory on that is that the moon is an artificial thing, much like a Death Star, and that ET has put it in place, and that conceivably this is literally a prison planet. And they set it in that position specifically because it was exactly covering up the sun. That's my theory. I could not prove that to save my life, but I have to give it some probability.
So, yeah, it's improbable, but it gets like 0.5% for me.
I give it more.
I know. I'm not going to argue with you. I respect your opinion. I'm just saying that the first thing you said was, I forgot what you said now, but if you're believing that it's not actually at that point, 93 million miles, then nothing else would be in sync. Nothing else would work. It wouldn't be the exact same size. It has to be there or it's not there.
Well, what do you mean it has?
What do I mean? What do you mean what I mean? It has to be there for all that shit to work, for the moon to be the same size and the eclipses to work out.
Well, the moon to be the same size just has to be at the specific distance from us to cover the face of the sun, however far away it is and however big it is.
No, wrong. The moon, the sun has to be a certain size and a certain distance to be the same size as the moon. It must be. It can't.
Yeah, well, their proportions have
maybe a couple, 1,000 miles.
That's all. I mean, look, either one has to be one or the other has to be the other.
Right.
Right.
Either way, it's a matter of proportion. You're talking about 3 different objects: first the sun, then the moon, and then our perspective.
Yep.
Right. Or they're both the same size and they're not too far away.
Well, if they're both the same size, Jerry, then one would have to be physically touching the other in times of an eclipse. Imagine how close together they would have to be in order for one to cover the other. If they were the same size, because when the moon eclipses our sun, it's perfectly sized. And if they were the same size, they would have to be literally, practically touching each other during an eclipse.
Together. Yeah, absolutely.
Why? It's all the eclipses are based on perspective, where you're standing.
If they were the same size and one was closer to us, it would be smaller.
Yes.
All right, we're almost hitting the flat Earth part.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't want to go there. So, like I said, I don't know what they are. I just find it hard to believe I can see sunspots. And if you play the other video, you'll see.
Well, it's kind of interesting that Amy even brought up, and she mentioned the prison planet concept regarding the moon. And this brings me back around to what Nish and I were discussing about astrology and how the planetary bodies affect us. They affect us physically. They affect us consciously. Just like Amy even said, and I was going to say it too, about crime rate is increased during a full moon. So that proof that there's some strong evidence that it affects us consciously. So the celestial bodies have a effect on our consciousness as well as our physicality.
That's what astrology is all about.
I was relating it to the prison planet concept. If the moon was put here and we're on some prison planet, perhaps that is why that it affects our consciousness in such a way as to prevent us from doing the things that we talked about at the very, very beginning of the show, and that is experimenting and advancing in our consciousness or certain levels of enlightenment. Perhaps that's the prison that we're in, is to prevent us, our human brains or our human consciousness from
our human potential.
Thank you. It's hindering our potential.
But it's also possible that it's
helping.
Put there as it's a psyop. It's part of the matrix. It's made as a distraction for you to not focus on, yourself and going within whatever you need to do, to transcend here. Maybe the moon is just another part of the show that's distracting you and dragging you down to the rabbit hole. If you believe that, it's another belief system,
I would play devil's advocate. I would suggest it's the opposite.
That was my devil's advocate to you, dude.
Oh, D&D moment. Roll those dice.
Initiative roll.
Well, I mean, like we were saying earlier, that the patterns have been recognized over millennia, that humans have been observing the motions of the bodies in the sky, that we see the...
That's not true at all. I'm just saying that maybe...
I'm just
thing.
In relation to what you said about it being a distraction preventing us from looking at ourselves, I would suggest the opposite is having the effect, because when we see the patterns, we see how the effect influences us and animals, by the way. Butterflies and other birds and things are affected by the moon. So when we see that, it initiates us to look at ourselves. We notice the change in our physiology. We notice the change in our consciousness, our thought patterns.
I was just saying that in regards to the moon and the prison planet thing, as far as the body, the planets and everything, the frequencies coming from those heavenly bodies and the astrology thing, that's pretty interesting.
What are the chances that here we are collectively as a civilization, and at this particular point where I'd say a large amount of people are now joining in and questioning the controlling factor. Why do I have to pay 40%? Why, like taxes? Why this slave aspect that we are all, I think most of us, I'm with that. I think constantly, I'm never going to put that word down. We are slaves. Mm-hmm. If you don't think you're a slave, try and opt out and then see how far you get.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are the chances that during this kind of awakening in consciousness, where we're all starting to question what's going on and trying to fight for wiggle room, and it's like the Chinese finger trap where we're getting caught in tighter, and now we're piling on new tech like 5G and more electromagnetic interference that affects our ability to dream, to access these other states of consciousness through that portal of dream. Lots of people are not, it's disrupting them. What are the chances? Is this synchronistic? Is it a coincidence?
I have a thought on that too.
Lay it out.
Okay, I have established that the systems in place that we have been indoctrinated into believing is the way it is. The accounting for human energy added into a system that accounts for human energy, i.e. money, and the top-down control mind systems. Everybody's, are you a Democrat or Republican, right? I don't consent to that system, so definitely neither one of those. Anyway, I think, I was going to take this somewhere, and damn it, I just went out.
It happens.
At any rate, the point is, we've got psychopaths in control on our planet, and in fact, I did a video that do all these ghastly things like the 5G, because they want to control us. They want to have full control of us. And as long as we are consenting to these systems that promote psychopaths, we are going to see these kinds of results.
Well, consider how that now is affecting the makeup of our brains, the neuroptic stuff that's happening that aids us in having these experiences through altered states of consciousness, such as dreams. So they've taken it to a new step, whether some of us consent or not. Of course, I don't consent to any of it. Don't tell me. It's like, please, who are you to govern me? I'm so offended by this whole idea. I can't plant what in the yard? All of it, completely all of it. I have made $1.
I can't catch rainwater.
Right. Well, I've made $1 and you're going to take 60 cents of it. Oh my God. Is this sharecropping? And so, but we're being stifled at the energetic level now through D-Wave and 5G. It's now moved into our actual deep energetics physically.
Yes.
Into our tissues, into the brain, our brain waves, the way we're functioning, our optics, all of it. And there's, I don't know, I don't have an answer for, I can only say that I have noted in the last 2 years, I'm a prolific dreamer. I have noted in the last 2 years that I know that my dreams are always, I have amazing experiences, but for some reason there is a disruption happening. I'm sensing it, I'm noticing it, and it feels more challenging now sometimes. And it's, I don't have a heavily stressed life. So it's not like I'm trying to compute that daily stuff, the daily mind chatter at the end of the day. I'm talking about lucidity and OBEs and untapping the senses that we are agreeing in this reality that we don't have, that I have in dreams usually. So I'm sensing it. Where are we going with this? Is it, it's synchronistic that more people are waking up, to use that coin, and then all of a sudden, boom, 5G, D-Wave.
Right.
The bars are thicker.
Right.
Yep.
That's kind of what I was thinking, is what you had mentioned earlier, that so many people are waking up to these ideas and concepts, and so many people are now exploring ideas that they would normally not have, simply because of the proliferation of information, thanks to the internet, obviously.
Indeed.
But so many people, I mean, literally, people are waking up in droves, particularly not just on the conscious level and questioning their own existence and their own consciousness, but even, like for instance, the Las Vegas thing was such a freaking debacle that tons and tons of non-conspiratorial people, like YouTube channels, are questioning, like, to the max. Like, I mean, for Christ's sake, even Stefan Molyneux, who tends to shy away from conspiracies at every chance he gets, is questioning
Indeed.
Everybody's fucking scratching their head over Vegas. So,
and it's going to get worse and worse. It's just going to start amping up. That was,
so
step
the 5G, the D-Wave, the food, the air, the water, the propaganda, everything they can throw at us to keep us from exploring our consciousness and our connection to each other and our connection to the universe, and our ability to access information.
Absolutely.
And to be empathetic.
Yeah, this is a big war. This is big time. The fear factor must be so, I mean, and you've got to, on one aspect, is if you just step back and as a player in a game, you got to give them a hand, because they seem to be one step ahead, and with making sure that our bars are extra thick and dug down and above us, and on the other hand, that's also alarming in that there's this predictive aspect to it. Like, was this, like, we could say, well, going back to astrology, there's certainly a lot of the similar aspects of this particular time that were at the late, in the late 1700s, the 18th century, when revolution was happening then. And so they're consulting whoever they are that seem to be controlling the game. They're consulting oracles and whatever that is enough that they're ahead of the wave. So here we are collectively waking up saying, whoa, what's going on? And then all of a sudden they're ahead of the game with shit like 5G and voice to skull and all this other stuff that, you talk about. So how do we get ahead of that? How do we get ahead of the game?
Ignore the game and pursue our interests.
That's not easy, right? Well, I think all of us here are doing that, but that is certainly not easy.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yes.
Absolutely not. It just has to be a situation where we decide to, like you said, you're not in a stressful environment, so you don't have to unpack the daily stresses that a lot of people have to deal with. I think more and more people are going to have to just put away their stresses, at least temporarily for the day, a meditation moment. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So we're going to have to simply ignore the game. I'm not saying opt out and get off the grid. I'm just saying at least on a daily basis, almost like a prayer time, if you will. But rather than pray to an imaginary spaghetti monster in the sky, that we should practice our consciousness. We should practice.
And well, isn't that, and this is part of what has happened also in this grander scheme of things. Look at how where once we were, before the collective was so willing to wake up and look around, where once it was, we were not distracted by games, computers, phones, the constant roll of everything going. The flicker rate has increased. And so it is now harder for people without using a great deal of will to sit back and say, I am going to sit in silence and I'm going to contemplate, or even I'm going to sit back and read a book. Even basic things like that. So it's changing. It's a wicked game.
So Nish, you ask during your interviews, you ask people about religion.
Yes.
I don't know if that's I haven't listened to every interview, but so far, everyone that I've listened to, it's been a start off point.
Yes.
And certainly I have my own insights and info, but I want to know your motivation as to maybe why you like to frame your interviews with this as a starting point.
Well, we wanted to find, so we were looking at symbols, right? If we start talking about really anything beyond the surface, we start letting words and all that fall away, and we start looking at symbols and then archetypes and all this. It was about what was your early programming, our early program that you come into, and we're interested in that early phase to set up where you may be now. And so religion is what? It's the granddaddy for indoctrination.
Yeah, sure.
It's like through fear and all the mechanisms they use. And so it was really just that. And that's why I always preface or, set it up to what were you possibly born into or raised in, and did it change? I always like that. Like, has there been a triumph in some way where you were able to question your indoctrination and move out of it? Or did, some people are very, find a great deal of meaning there, and that's fine. I'm not here to judge. So it's not coming out of judgmental. I'm just trying to look at their symbols.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Thank you. That's a good answer. All right. So now I'll put the question to you. What about your background? What can you tell us about what religious influences got you, started on your journey to life?
I'm very grateful for this again. I was not brought into any religion, so I don't ever remember my real mother's family. Now, granted, there is stuff there that is, Eastern Stars and Oddfellows and Masons, but they were in Shriner, all that goes with that. But I didn't get into Eastern Stars. I didn't get in, nothing was pushed on me. And I never remember any church at all with them. No church. And like funerals were done at funeral homes and not in churches. So there was nothing from that end. And when I met my father, nothing from that. He was exploring, he's kind of a back to earther, but he was exploring the Coptic stuff. But I was already 12 when I met him. In the household I grew up in, which was an Irish household, they didn't, and they were more Protestant. I never was brought into a church ever. My brother also, that was his dad's family. So there was no church there. We had a babysitter that was hired to take care of us, that married my stepdad. And she was my first introduction to any organized religion. And she was Episcopalian. And she tried to drag us. I was probably 7-ish, maybe 8, I don't know, somewhere in there. And she was insistent when she married him that we all participate in that. Well, I didn't last very long because I've got the wild gene. And so I got in, and they're throwing me into these study groups, and I immediately am questioning. This is all brand new to me. So I found that the bizarre thing was I didn't know the name Jesus. You know, I'm literally like a native from some weird world to these people. They did I didn't know. So they felt like they treated me like I was literally mentally retarded. And so it didn't last long because I'd already started to try and run away at this. When I was 6, I did my first thinking I'm going to run away, which was a few blocks away, but it was still like my act of getting out of there. And, so I didn't last long. It was very brief. And that was it, Aaron. That's what it was.
Awesome. Ian wants to play Billy Corgan interview, and we're going to take a few-minute break and give everybody a chance to go to the restroom and get a cup of tea or wine or beer or whatever you're drinking. And we're going to be back in a couple of minutes. And Ian, how long is this? How long is it, Ian?
Hello,
Yeah.
Ian, are you there?
I just found it. I just had to find it.
We can't.
Oh, I thought you had it ready to go. You said in the chat you wanted to play that. All right, so when we come back, I'm going to...
All right. Sorry about that.
We're going to get into actual dreams, and I'm going to also be asking Amy and Ian for their input because this is a subject that everybody should have a chance to, tell their version of what they experienced during dream state. So whenever you're ready, Ian, go ahead and do that, and we'll be back in a few minutes.
Let's just say I was with somebody once and I saw a transformation that I can't explain.
The person transformed into something other than human.
Yes, I saw it.
Were you on drugs?
I was not. I was totally sober.
Wow.
You were talking with. I'm asking you some questions. If you were talking to someone,
yes,
and you're having a conversation
yes,
like we are now,
yeah,
this close, and the person suddenly, not in a hallucination, they said to you, "Look, something's going to happen here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to morph into something else,"
mm-hmm,
and you're like, "This is ridiculous."
That's not how it happened.
Give me a please. I want to see this.
Imagine you're doing something and suddenly you turn around and there's somebody else standing there.
A different human.
Sorta. It's hard to explain without going into detail. I'd rather not go into details.
Okay, but did you say to the person, "What'd you just do here?"
Yes, and they acknowledged it.
And what did they say they were? From another planet?
They wouldn't explain.
Why not?
Again, without telling us, it's a really messed up story.
A famous person?
No.
Good. Why is that famous? By the way,
why is that good?
Why don't you put him on wrestling?
Believe it or not, they're actually a voting member of the Rock and Roll Academy.
Is that true?
I'm just.
It's Jan Wenner, isn't it?
But when you say they transformed into someone else or something
I mean, Billy,
else.
I've had that
I'm being
happen.
vague on purpose.
I was with a woman once. She took her makeup off. I didn't know who the fuck she was. I'm telling you, she totally tricked me. You talk about something like that, that's a different story. Wow. I mean,
it's up there with one of the most intense things I've ever been through. I can't explain.
So that was Billy Corgan on Howard Stern. And if anybody don't know who Billy Corgan is, he was the lead singer for the Smashing Pumpkins.
Yep. So Billy claims that somebody.
He turned around and it was somebody, you know, changed shape or form or whatever. Now, I mean, you can take all of this with a big grain of salt, right? Just like you can take Corey Feldman and exposing Hollywood with all a grain of salt, right? Oh, can't hear you. Hello? Can you hear me? Yep. Can't hear you, Aaron. You muted?
I can't hear you, Aaron, but I see your mouth moving. Still no sound.
Was it just me? Was it me?
No,
or was it
Ian,
him?
I couldn't. It's.
Oh,
it
okay.
went- yeah.
I thought it was me. I jumped out and she came back.
Well, I wasn't talking because I don't know what is going on. Are we in a break still?
He was on mute, but I didn't see his mute on. So yeah, that was. I don't know. What do you guys think of that? Did you hear it, or were you guys away from the?
I stepped away because I thought it was a break and used the bathroom.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was so short. It was only a couple minutes.
I heard it.
What do you think of that, Jerry?
I think it's the same thing that all the other people who say that people shapeshift. You know, I think it's subjective.
Now, if it would be fake, what would be the reasoning behind it being a psyop?
Fake what?
Like if it's just bullshit and it's just sort of some sort of a psyop, right? Then I'm just trying to figure out what the purpose of the psyop would be.
Well, who would be doing it, first of all? Who would, his friend or someone?
No, I don't mean like in actuality. I mean in like if they wanted to spread, if this story was all fake, right, to begin with.
Oh, he wouldn't come on Howard Stern and talk about it. Well, even if it is fake, there's no way you can prove it either way. So it's just a story. It's
Aaron,
just
you
a
have an
story.
audio problems, eh? Can't hear you.
He's muted.
You're muted now. No, we still can't hear him. He's there. Talking away. Can't hear him.
Do that thing you did before, buddy.
Can't hear you, Aaron.
Can't hear a word you're saying, hun.
Maybe
Yeah.
maybe you'll have to unplug your mic and then plug it back in or something. Maybe disconnect from the chat for a minute and plug your mic.
Disconnect from the
If
internet.
it doesn't work, yeah, first try your mic and then if not.
Well,
So,
now you're back on
You
mute.
can leave and come back within a couple of minutes.
Anyone can, you know, of like Billy Corgan's stature can come out and say pretty much anything like that.
Right.
And get away with it. Look at Tom DeLonge running around now raising money for his nonsense.
Right. Yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, it could just be a PR thing because he could be coming out with like a solo album or something. You never know, or going on tour or something, right?
Yeah, and look at this whole new audience of reptilian believers and InfoWars viewers he's getting.
Yeah.
To buy
He was
tickets.
on there, eh?
Really?
You guys
He
hear
was
me?
on Alex Jones.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, cool.
There you go. Fixed her. You're a little silent, but that'll fix itself.
All right. Well, the only thing I wanted to say, you had brought up Corey Feldman, and I'll probably rub some people the wrong way, but I've got a bad feeling about what Corey Feldman is up to right now. Right.
Well,
What do you think?
He runs literally a whorehouse.
He's trying to raise $10 million.
Yes, I saw that.
He got arrested for drugs.
About his life story and his experience, and he's got names of people that he's going to name. But the problem that I have is, if he's got names,
name them. You don't need 10 million to name them.
Yeah, why this big hullabaloo just to get money?
The fact is, if anybody knows, Corey knows that children are being abused daily, every single day by these
everywhere
people
in the world.
Abused and sacrificed.
So he's a whistleblower and he's trying to capitalize on it, or he's just capitalizing on it.
I think he's just capitalizing on it because, seriously, if he was that concerned, he would be out there naming every name he knew.
That's right. Because look, the only whistle he has blown is the same whistle we have already known about, and that is that it exists. The only thing Corey has told us is that it exists.
Yeah, they've told us
he hasn't
we don't
named any
already.
names.
That's right.
Nobody has.
Yep. This guy, Corey Feldman, man, he runs a woman's cult-like thing. It's like he runs basically a whorehouse.
Corey's Angels.
Corey's Angels, he calls them. And he has a whole bunch of hot women living in a house. He tells them how to dress. He tells them how to act. He tells them how to...
Are they on webcam or something?
Creepy.
What the hell?
Guys. We're talking creepy to the bone.
Yes.
And I've seen pictures of him flashing the bullhorns and doing the 666 with his hand. And I've seen it, right? So I don't trust it at all. I think he's exactly what you said, Amy, capitalizing on it.
Absolutely. It's just more poop there out, another controlled opposition outlet, right?
Yep.
It's another Alex Jones in a different direction.
That's right.
You guys have heard me throw the phrase out, breadcrumbs for truthers, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Well, I think Corey Feldman is another breadcrumb for a batch of truthers.
Yeah.
It's just a distraction. It's in a rabbit hole where you go down, and there's nothing at the bottom.
Yeah, because they all protect each
Nothing
other
at the bottom but the trap.
Yeah.
Nothing at the bottom that you can actually prove yourself. That's what 99% of the rabbit holes are. That they're quests without treasure.
That's
because the media covers them up.
That's right, Jerry. That's right.
That's a good way to look at it.
That's right. Okay, so let's get into the real topic. I want to talk to you guys about your personal experiences with dreams. What kind of dreams do you have? And I want to start with Jerry, because Jerry alluded a little while ago in the Hangout chat. He said he has to go at about 9:15. I assume that's because he's going to get ready for his show that he does after this is over.
That would be correct.
So Jerry, now's your chance. Imagine you're the guest on Nox Mente. Tell us about your dreams. Tell us about your experiences. What can you tell us about your awareness and consciousness, subconsciousness, active consciousness? What kind of dreams do you have, Jerry? Can you see color? Can you read text?
You let me answer one of these, or are you going to keep peppering me? I was born a poor black child. No, I am one of these people, believe it or not, who lucid dreamer. I've never had a lucid dream that I know of. I rarely remember my dreams, and I've had a handful of recurring dreams over the course of my entire life, which are odd. But yeah, I'm just I don't sleep much, maybe 4 to 6 hours a night. So when I do dream, I don't remember them, maybe just the tail end. Even keeping a dream journal, doesn't work. Some are, I don't remember having any really strong. I do remember a couple months ago, I had a really interesting dream. But that's like the only one I really remember lately.
Lay it on us.
Oh, that one? It was
as bizarre as it is, whatever it is.
I was at Disneyland in the Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Okay, remember, or it might have been I'm sorry, it was a Peter Pan ride where you're in the car and it looks like you're flying in the air.
Yeah, it's sort of a ship-like container.
Yeah, it's like a boat, and as you move through the ride, the ground or underneath you, the models start to get smaller, and it gives you this optical illusion that you're flying in the air and you're looking for.
Yep.
You're going up, ascending.
Yep.
It looks like you're ascending into the air. So anyway, I was in this ride with this giant bird god from Egypt.
Thoth?
It was Thoth was in the car with me.
Thoth.
Yeah, whatever. Pointing down at the land, going, "That's what's going on here." Like it's all an optical illusion.
It's profound.
That was my weird dream.
So and that's not your reoccurring dream though, right?
No, my recurring dreams were I haven't had one in a while. I used to have a lot of drowning dreams. I was drowning all the time. And I'd wake up not drowning. I used to have these horrible dreams about something dark in the pool. Like I'd be getting into a pool, but there was some kind of creature, like imagine a great white in an Olympic-sized pool, like that kind of large, dark shadow. And I had to get in the pool, but I was always afraid it was going to eat me. That was one. Then for years and years and years, I had this really crazy dream that there was something buried in my basement that I had to keep hidden. And I would always move it. Every time I would have this dream, it would have to be dug up and moved. And finally, the last one, which I actually remember, I cemented it in the foundation of a new house. But I never knew what it was. I never saw it because I don't remember that part. But I always had those dreams, and it was very anxious.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were hiding something, and when you cemented it in the new house, did you continue to have that dream that it had to be moved?
I did not. I never had one since.
Ah, so you came to a resolution of some kind?
I don't know. It didn't correlate with anything that I was doing that would be considered naughty.
Were you worried about some aspect of your life coming to light?
I don't remember. This was 30 years ago. 20 years ago. No, it really didn't correlate to anything, and I was happy, and I would just have weird dreams. But yeah, I'm not big on the dream thing.
Okay, so you've said that you don't do lucid dreaming, or you claim that you never have to your knowledge. Do you have any memory of at least visualizing or noticing text or glyphs?
I don't recall ever seeing anything like that, but I definitely see colors and sound. There's definitely people talking. I've never tried to read anything,
When you say people talking, is it like gibberish, like people in the background, or do you have?
No, it's full conversations. I have full conversations. I have a lot of. I have dreams where. Yeah, go ahead.
When you say full conversation, are you talking like an interactive conversation?
Definitely.
Well,
but it's not. Okay, I know you're going to say qualify as lucidity, but I'm going to say it's more like I'm watching a movie.
I mean, like, okay, so if it's more like you're watching a movie, would you say that your part of the interaction during a conversation in a dream, your part is that, would you say like a preordained, like something you would have said regardless? Do you know what I mean? Or are you consciously or perhaps semi-consciously interacting in that conversation?
It really looks like a script. It feels like a script. Like I'm just watching you say it like I said it before, and I'm watching a replay of it kind of thing.
Interesting.
And I don't actually recall ever hearing myself say anything that I wouldn't say normally.
Okay.
I'm just as goofy in my dreams as I am in real life.
Okay. Nish, I'll pass the torch to you. Tell me about your dreams and just take it from there. Just what can you tell me?
Well, I'm a prolific dreamer, and so in constructing our Mente thing, I realized mostly that my dream, that black and white is very rare for me. Like I was really trying to isolate where if I couldn't pinpoint. So I can't say no or yes, but everything does seem to be in saturated color. So that happens. And then I have where I'm coming at it from is I definitely recognize the daily filing, the filtering of the daily stuff, or anything I need to work out that might be more surface level, including having to pee, right? You find yourself on a toilet or whatever. And so all that, but then below that is this realm where these symbols could still be surface level things that now we're in a place where it's not recognizable. So say like that person at the office that is causing me stress is that person higher up in the consciousness, but lower down, it's all of a sudden they've turned into their true form. So maybe they're more monstrous. And then that's still kind of the lower level filing. Below that, where all of a sudden it's shifted, I try to, this is where the lucidity cues happen, where something weird happens. So I'm going about, I might I'm going about and something strange sticks out, like there could be an elephant in the room, or I'm in my house, but then it's been rearranged. And so I stop and say, oh, I may be dreaming. And in that moment, when I'm questioning it, this is usually where a couple things will happen for me. I'll either look down and I try to find reflective surfaces to get in to see sense of self, right? So, and it's rarely ever convenient that there's a mirror. So there's usually something like a crystal hanging from a chandelier or a reflection in a glass, but it's rarely silvered mirror. And the easier thing is I'll try and look down and see my hands. And that's usually when I can kind of pull into lucidity. And this from there is usually where I can get into awakening. And then that can be a very slow process for me, because I know still to this day, I'm overwhelmed by this sense. Like, whoa, I know that I'm not in my body, and I'm here. And so then focus is very strange. I'll try to focus on my hands, or then I'm looking at the ground, and focus is very pinpointed. Everything seems very blurry beyond what I'm focused on. And then this is where I can float, which is kind of flying. I tend to float about. So in between, somewhere in between all these states I've just talked about, there is the stuff that's like I consider prophetic, where I come back to consciousness with a sense of a download, or a sense of seeing further down crypt, at least in the world I'm sitting in. And then as Ian had asked earlier, which I knew we were going to wind around to, Aaron, you're the only person so far that I've interacted with that has validated this for me. These events that come back that I call dreaming true, that play out, well, when they play out in the future, I may have forgotten the dream. It's a deja vu. Mm-hmm. Every time I can pinpoint it to a dream I had. Mm-hmm. And so many of them are still so vivid for me. The ones that have already activated, that happened, where I'm like, oh my God, and I'm trying to hold on to it. I feel like it's an opportunity to maybe break the cast, try it. There's a sliver of can I push through this and go to another? So that's I get lately, I've been getting extremely like 3D virtual reality kinds of experiences in my sporadic dreaming lately. So that it feels like I'm immersed, like in a surround sound stereo. I'll wake up sometimes and my heart's beating and I'm sweating and the sound is just fading away from this intense stereo experience. And they've shifted. So it's now become way more visceral, I think, than in the past with my more vivid experiences.
Wow. You had mentioned that's great. Thank you for that. You'd mentioned mirrors, that in your dreams that you sometimes look for reflective surfaces or mirrors. Have you ever had a full-on self-awareness? Have you ever actually seen yourself in a mirror in a dream?
Yes.
Wow.
And like I said, this is rare. So I have one very clear memory of it and a couple scattered, like dusty memories. But one was a full-length mirror, like a peer mirror, you know, and I was looking directly at myself, which is not the visage I have here. And this is the point of looking for your reflection, is to, so this is who I am in this storyline. That's me, and that's who I'm playing. And so that's, I just don't think that these kind of humanoid forms really can express our realness. So yes, and it was in that particular experience was rooted in a time period. There was a period aspect to the whole dream. So 1700s.
So when you saw yourself in the mirror, was it actually you?
It was my eyes.
Just your eyes? I mean, did you get?
No, it was the whole body, but it wasn't my body as I'm in now, that I'm in now. But it was me. I recognize the eye. I feel like maybe I always have the same eyes. Maybe we all do. So
what you saw in the mirror in your dream was another body, but you recognized it as yourself.
Absolutely. So when I was scanning the people, there was like a whole bunch of people, like it was a vent, like maybe a ball or something. And I didn't recognize myself at first. So I came towards it. And the only way I recognized me is the momentum coming towards the mirror. I was intentionally doing that. So I figured it must be me. And then when I got right up next to it, where you can fog it over, I saw myself there. So my eyes immediately, I recognized the closer I got to the mirror, the more thin the more energy like the shell I was in became. So I possibly could have walked through the mirror, maybe. I don't know. I woke up after this. So because it was an alarming moment, like solid, here's this figure moving towards, I'm looking around at the same time. So I'm in an environment and then I'm moving towards the mirror, and solid, like you look in a mirror now. And then as I get up close and I'm right on it, I'm like ghostly, but that's not even the right word. I'm thin, wispy energy, and it's like I could have just moved through the mirror. But that freaked me out, and I woke up with a jerk. You've had those experiences.
Yep.
So that was, and I'll never forget that. And that was a very long time ago.
Wow. That's kind of profound. I may want to circle around back on that. I've got one more quick question for you, and then I want to get on to asking Jerry some more things while we have him for another 15 minutes.
Absolutely. Focus on Jerry, actually.
Well, before I forget, I really want to ask you, because you're female, in regards to what we all know as a wet dream.
Yes. My favorite.
Yeah, right. Okay.
It came up before, didn't it? What were we talking about?
Jerry, it was in one of our shows. I don't know how.
It's funny. Okay, sorry.
And they didn't have one, I believe. I think it was the other Aaron.
No, I think we covered briefly when I was on with you guys.
Maybe it was you. Yes.
Now, when you encounter in a dream for lack of a better term, a wet dream.
Yes.
Where you're engaged sexually with a partner.
Mm-hmm.
Are you lucid?
That is a cue to lucidity. So what happens there is whatever's going on in the dream that led up to all of a sudden this sensate experience that then activates my body, my physical body, laying in the bed or couch, wherever I happen to be sleeping. And that's when I become lucid, and that's when I want more, because I'm going to have an orgasm. Sure. And so I'm really trying to hold. And for me, lucidity is tricky because you can easily find yourself out of it, like in awake, back in your bed. So I'm always trying to walk this line. It's like a sliver. It's so hard to describe. It's such a sliver. It's not, for me, my experience is it's not like there's no guarantee with it. And so especially wet dreams, the gold, I love them so much. I find myself just trying to walk that dreamy, lucid experience so that I actually do get to have a wonderful orgasm.
Cool.
So like if I slip out of lucidity, it's always like, can I get back in? Can I get back in? Everyone knows that in a dream.
Yeah.
So it can almost be like a girl's version of blue balls. It's like, man, I'm left hanging here, and I'd rather go back to that, that encounter instead of my hand, but because it's so visceral, and I'm not pleasing myself. I'm getting pleased.
Right,
my hands aren't on my vagina. And that's what's so wonderful about a wet dream.
So, Jerry, since we've only got you for another 15 minutes, and I know that you had,
15 minutes-ish.
So I know that you said that you don't really experience or claim to have not ever had lucid, a really truly lucid dream.
Where I could feel like I could change things. Yeah, I've never experienced that.
Have you had situations where, like Nish said, you sort of wake up in the middle of the night and there was a dream that you were having that was really cool for whatever reason? You're just having a kind of the dream that you wanted to get back to. Have you ever been able to, have you had that?
Yes,
have you ever been able to get back to it?
Yes, I know I have, but I don't remember the dream, but I've had several of those occasions where I woke up, go, oh, that was cool. And you go right back into it.
I mean, I have the hardest time getting back to it. I think only a tiny handful of occasions in my whole life have I actually achieved getting back to that dream. So you're saying that that's not a problem for you? You've had that happen to you a lot?
I definitely have had that happen. Whenever I want to, I usually can get right back into it.
Nice.
That's interesting coming from someone who says he does not lucid dream.
I don't. Let me rephrase it. The way people describe lucid dreaming is not at all what I experience and never have. So if it's some other form of lucidity, or I'm just not at that right level, level one, whatever you want to think of it as, I just haven't ever had that, oh, this is a dream. This sucks. I can't change anything. I just remembered another dream I had where I got shot at, and I was shot. I don't know if I had lived or not because I woke up when the gun went off, but it was in a movie theater. I could, if that was a lucid dream, I would have been able to, stop the bullet or do whatever the hell I wanted to, blink the guy out of there. But, I just woke up.
I don't always find that true with lucidity personally. Like things can still, like if it's not all your unconscious, things that aren't pushing back. So you getting shot, that to me would have been a cue that, that's something that's pushing against this. I don't have control of it. Like it feels to me, Jerry, lucidity feels like this right now.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's what I'm going to say. The lucidity to me means that in my dream, I can think, oh, this is a dream. I realize that I'm in a dream. That's the definition of lucid dreaming to me.
Yes, I agree.
And I've never, that I recall, said, oh, this is a dream. Don't worry. It's always, like I said, more like I'm in a movie or in a play watching it happen.
Okay, well, perhaps you are lucid dreaming. Perhaps you just have somewhat of a different definition, because I don't define lucid dreaming as being able to control all aspects of the dream.
Agreed.
I mean, it's like Nish said, it's kind of like this experience that we're having, this conscious experience that we're having right now, interacting with each other. I can control my part. I can't control what you say or do.
Right. Which, and also the fact that I don't remember 90% of my dreams.
Yeah, me neither.
This is why I said I don't actively recall ever doing it, but it doesn't mean I don't do it every night.
Why is it though when you're dreaming and if you're trying to run away from something, you can't run, you have to push. It's really hard.
Yes, yes.
Or my thing in my dreams, whenever I'm scared, I can't yell. I can't ever get out a yell. It's always like a...
Had that too. Yeah.
Why is it that we can't exert the energy? Because it's not real energy or what?
That's an excellent question, Ian.
I bet it ties into something with sleep paralysis that your body does, when you're in that state, that hypnagogic.
That's where I was going to go with it. Yeah.
Well, I wonder, I don't know that it's, because to me it's like I've got plenty of energy. It's just not happening at the vocal cords, Yeah. It's like I feel the energy. I want to, I've got that energy.
You can't release it.
I don't have, yeah, exactly.
I think that that's part of you're separating and you're becoming an OBE personally. So when there's a disconnect between your physical body, because that's what you're expecting when you're trying to scream, it ties in the paralysis state. And as you come closer to consciousness, then you do discover that you are actually in a sleep paralysis, and then you become aware, but you're still unable to vocalize or move. I think that is in that hinterground. A lot of times the scary stuff is there to wake you up. It's there to give, it's a cue to get you to snap out of the body or snap into lucidity. And you're still holding on to the memory muscle of your physical body. This is just my theory, having gone through that too. Because this is all theory. That's what's great about it. I mean, we all have our own experiences.
Right.
The old tale of, the guy comes and somebody comes up and tries to stab you, and all of a sudden you wake up, you're freaking out. Oh my God.
Yeah, you always seem to wake up before you actually die.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then somebody asked in the chat earlier, I think it was Illusion Shattered. He said, well, what about if you died has anyone died in their dream?
Jerry and I had a guest, I cannot recall. Can you, Jerry, that has?
No, I don't remember.
Someone did, and I brought up that's super rare.
I don't remember who said that.
Well, I'm not sure if you guys remember, but I alluded to one of my dream stories when you interviewed me, where I was shot between the eyes, and I literally woke up at that moment. And I felt the hot bullet pass through my skull, and then I woke up.
I remember you telling that. Yeah.
I mean, it was vivid enough that I remember it. I remember thinking to myself, "It's hot." I could feel the heat it was hot. It was hot. I could feel it, and it hurt.
I would argue that experience death in dreams because you haven't yet experienced it. And I based this on the fact that
you just nailed it right there.
Before I ever had sex with a woman, I always woke up before I did in my dreams.
Oh, interesting.
Can you ever think of a time you got off in your dreams or whatever? Or did anything with a woman before
not before actual in real life having sex. No.
Exactly.
No,
so
yeah.
That's maybe what it is.
But wait, we are talking about consciousness now, and the collective unconscious, perhaps, and I'm sure that we've all heard the idea and concept that there's this wealth of information that we can all tap into, and even though we may not have had certain experiences, that we should still be able to tap into that information. But you just alluded to something that
maybe we're encapsulated in this life. Only the knowledge. I mean, it could go so many ways. It depends. it depends on what kind of dream, what dreams are, first of all. If you're really, you know, in another plane, would you actually have that information with you or access to it? And especially, like, how could I say it? Can you pull in skills from past lives in a dream? Probably
well,
not.
people have. I mean,
Do they? Okay.
Yeah, like they've remembered things that they've never been to, but they dreamt about.
But that doesn't mean that that was real.
Well, I don't know if
Well, if they can describe it, right?
I don't know I don't know about the dream aspect, but there are certainly people who experience synesthesia, where and synesthesia comes in many forms, and some people will experience a traumatic head injury, and then they wake up from a coma and they speak French.
Yes. Oh, there's so many great stories
Yep.
like that.
Like fluently.
Yeah.
And no other language. They don't even speak English anymore. Like, I mean, there's some crazy stories out there.
Or like savantism, people getting a railroad spike through their head, and they can play the piano like a virtuoso. Yeah,
like the Travolta movie Phenomenon.
Without getting too deep, it seems like a parallel universe in a sense.
Maybe, or maybe just, you know, there isn't a school of thought that says everything is already done, right? So all the information is available to everyone, and it's just in the ether.
You gotta upload it.
Well, download it. Yeah, you just need to. You need to connect to the cloud and access it.
Well, Nish said earlier that she taught herself to belly dance through dreaming.
Yes, I did.
So
and other things.
So that would qualify as, you know, something that
have you seen her belly dance? Is she any good?
I am, and there are actually videos.
I'm just,
yeah, make it your first video of belly dancing.
You make a lot of tips.
Ooh-wee. Actually, I've wanted to ask Jerry this for the longest time, since we have him on the spot. Is what do you think, Jerry? And this is an Mente question. What do you think these states are? Dream versus, you know, like the whole Mente thing, memory, dream, all of it.
I think it's multifunctional. I think there's a state in which you're. Well, first of all, I think our brains just control the physicality of our body. That's the purpose, right? And provide this uplink capability to the cloud. Think about it. So there's some kind of house cleaning that needs to go on to flush out like your short-term memory and move that to long-term memory. Those kind of operations, I think, is what happens in some stage of dreaming. But then after that, really what I think right now is that there's a dream space, a dream time, right, that people go to and dream. And I think there's also the astral plane that people can experience in their dreams. And then from stories I've heard that people can get hijacked and pulled into other virtual spaces within the dream time to play Space Invaders or whatever, you know, kill reptilians, the whole secret space program stuff.
Have you ever experienced a period in your life where you suffered a large section, like days and days and days, without sleep? I'll give you an example. When I was a young man and lived in Las Vegas, I was hooked on meth, and my girlfriend and I, we were doing, my friends, you know, we did a lot of meth, and we went days and days without sleep. So my question is, have you ever experienced the psychosis that comes with lack of sleep?
No. I think the most I've set up would be in Vegas, believe it or not, but from just playing poker. Some poker player.
Nish?
Yes, I have gone long periods. Long ago and far away, I also played with substances, and although my substance, the choice for me was cocaine, and this is so long ago and far away, but there were a couple times where it was a bender like that.
I had a bender weekend like that once, yeah.
Yeah, and so this is what made me kind of go cold turkey with everything was I was a teenager when I last did anything crazy, was this lack of control, and especially when you'd get going for, some periods of time. So whatever was swirling around my life, the climate turned dark for me, and then there was a sense of lack of control, and then all that comes with that. So
that sense of lack of control though is interesting, because I have that same thing. And
do you?
It's the reason I will never do ayahuasca or DMT or
ditto.
take 8 grams of mushrooms,
Yes.
I cannot let that go, and that's interesting.
If there is something, that's something I've been looking for in other people. It's one of the reasons why we ask about this on our show, Jerry. It's it
manifests in 3D too.
It does. It completely does.
I cannot let anyone drive me around. I have to drive.
I have to be able to see. So I'm like driving Miss Deanie. I like to be able to see. Like, I feel like I can control events if I'm watching them. So I don't necessarily have to drive, but I have to have a sense of control in my life.
Yeah. I got to sit by the window on a plane. I have to,
Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of planes, I went through a period at one point where I became just so afraid to drive. I mean, so afraid to drive. I'm not for drive, fly. And I was freaking out. And we went to a science fiction convention in Atlanta. We were in LA. And
Dragon Con.
Actually WorldCon.
Oh, WorldCon, okay.
Yeah. And that's where we won't go there. But at any rate, my boyfriend at the time was learning to fly. And he asked me if it would help if he told me what was going on in the cockpit. Because, I was sweating. I was, tears were going down my eyes. I was just freaking out, just sitting there waiting on the tarmac.
Yes.
And I went, and he started telling me what was going on up there. And, he said, now they're calling the tower, and now they're, checking this. And it was amazing ever since that point, although I'm not really, totally relaxed. Flying doesn't bother me. But what was really interesting, I was in a plane with him at one point where he was flying, and I was much more comfortable with that. And finally I said, I'm going to fly the plane. And I went to ground school and managed to get 0.9 hours of flight time. And it was kind of interesting because the instructor that took me up was amazed. He said, you did 100% of the takeoff by yourself, first time in a plane. 100%. He said, you did 60% of the landing.
Wow.
By yourself. And he said, I've never seen that in anyone who's never flown before. And so, it's like, but I'll tell you, I was totally comfortable when I was in control of the plane.
And that is a perfect illustration, literally a perfect illustration in dreamland and also here of your will. And will is definitely tied into a sense of control. You could have been talking about a dream right there. That's awesome.
Yeah, I can see how that could be, but it was definitely not a dream.
Yeah. But
I loved it. I was being up there in the air with that plane, doing, he'd say turn here, and I'd turn and do this.
I flew a glider once. Like those gliders with no engines.
Right.
Yeah, I flew one of those with my brother when I was a kid.
Cool.
Yeah,
I'd love that too.
These kinds of events change the pathways in our brain, and so then it's possible. So you start opening these up, and then new things become possible. And in a conversation of consciousness, experiments of consciousness, that's what we want. So now you flew, you were able to fly. And and so this this literally expanded your horizon.
Oh yeah, I put it that way. Yes.
But at a very deep level. So it's not just the active control physically here in this dimension. It's a very, very much bigger thing that goes very deep into your unconscious and into who knows what narratives you have brought in, because we don't know. What are we? Where are we?
Right.
Yeah.
We should know, but we're not allowed to know.
Let me.
How do we know we're not allowed to know? Everyone keeps.
Because
they've hidden it all from us.
Because
Ancient
psychopaths are in
civilizations knew way
control.
more about everything than we do now.
Are they really in control? I'm really starting to doubt all this stuff.
This is why I don't. I will tell you. My dad worked with T. Townsend Brown on electric and tell us what they were getting, including gravity and energy out of the ether. And about his work and the experiments, and then and told Mom and me we could not talk about his work anymore because they want it secret for now. That was in 1959, and I have not seen it out since. So I know there's people there that are hiding things from us.
Maybe it didn't work.
That's the whole point. My dad was telling me what they were getting.
There's numerous occasions where technology it can be found in the scientific journals and literature, and when a breakthrough occurs, there's no more mention in any of the literature. It just goes silent.
Well, that's
just
because
look at the pyramids, though, Jerry. We can't even replicate the pyramids today.
I agree. I know.
That just shows you right there that they knew way more about everything than we do now. It was taken away.
I completely. It wasn't taken away. It was lost. Now, other people may have discovered it, and that's being hidden. That I can agree with.
I'm definitely going to say that there are many things that are being hidden from us.
Yes, almost everything is being hidden from us.
Yeah,
there is and they are hiding it from us.
But I don't think
are the psychopaths in control.
Well, I don't think it is the psychopaths in control. I don't think they're really in control.
Well, I think
I tell you what, Amy, let's finish this conversation on Jerry's show after we're done here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We can talk about that. Yeah, totally.
Well, I'm going to have to get some food before I get to going. I haven't eaten much of anything all day, so.
The hive goes for hours.
Oh yeah, indefinitely.
Okay. Well, I will meander in when it all happens.
I haven't eaten either, Amy. I'm with you.
Okay.
I'll be a late one.
Me neither. I'm going to eat
together.
All right, I've got a question or two more for Jerry before we lose him, because I know he's got to go and get his other show set up.
Whatever, it can start late. I don't give a shit.
Have you ever been able to have a particular dream on purpose? Like, have you ever had an intention before you laid down, or as you laid down, before you entered a dream state or a sleep state? Have you ever consciously thought to yourself, I want to dream about this subject, and then successfully do that? Have you ever had that experience? Have you ever tried?
No, I have tried. I have not successfully done it that I can recall. And I do try to set intentions nightly when I go to sleep.
Okay, well, that's good. Niish?
So I find this one's a tricky one. Yes and no. So nothing ever plays out the way I solidly laid out an intent here. And I'm going to go meet up with a bunch of people at this tree. But it may play out like I meet up with those people in another setting. So I need to work on that. It's something I try to work on. And I find that when I am lucid or flying around in that state, my will is, I'm fascinated by things, and it seems like the tides have a larger control over me. So it's easier to meander off.
So you get distracted in your own dream?
Kind of, yes, because there's so much fantastical stuff that once, you know, that pinpoint that I talk about of perspective, of focus, when I move it around, it's like the Eye of Saruman, man. Jeez. You know, it's like when I move it around, I hate to use that analogy, but now I'm just seeing that image. It's just, or like a camera, I suppose. I don't know, but I get distracted. So yes, I have been able to hold intent, but it never plays out as I thought in the example like I just gave you. Like I'd meet people in the cityscape instead of at a tree.
Well, I think that is probably one of the most important aspects. If anybody takes anything away from this entire conversation, I would like it to be this. That last question that I just asked you and Jerry about intentionally trying to have a particular kind of dream or a particular subject or whatever, just being intentional before you even enter sleep state.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that I think strongly needs to be practiced.
Mm-hmm.
The suggestion that I made many months ago on Jerry's show about trying to get people to consciously meet up in a dream, that would be one of those situations where you had an intention to have a kind of dream, and then intention, you know, you put your will to work and you put your intention, set it, a focus, and made it happen. So, and that's going to have to be probably the first step in that process. If we ever, as a group, any group, tried to, you know, have multi or simultaneous or similar or dreams, meet up in a dream, or have the same dream, or, you know, anything like that at all, I think it's going to have to start off with people practicing this aspect of adding their intention before even entering the sleep state.
Dude, just wait till Galactic Wave X gets here and our DNA gets upgraded and the new strands grow. We'll be dreaming like mofos.
Hopefully, this is the only way out. Is deeper in that whole thing, and we have to, like, if this is really the true meaning of waking up, is this set focused intent. And if we are expecting to get, no one's going to give it to us. We have to do this for ourselves and on our own. And in that aloneness of struggle and trying to get some sort of focus and control over ourselves, over this slavery we're in, and unlocking these gates are together in this, then there will be a bigger awakening, a true one. Because I think that whole thing, if it plays, if we can do it in dream time, if we can do it in that altered state, it's going to reverberate big time in this, whatever this state is.
So I know Jerry is. Niish, I assume you're probably familiar with the 100 monkey theory?
Yes.
How do you feel about this idea that, I don't know what you know about it beyond the monkeys themselves, but experiments have been done on human beings to show that we ourselves play a role as well, as far as what they call critical mass. A certain percentage of the population is aware of one particular piece of information, and then suddenly, without explanation, the other members of that population suddenly become aware of it as well.
Yes.
Because it's in the cloud. It's all stored in the cloud. And I would say to that, how many people are here that we can get that percentage from? You know,
is there like a stratification aspect to this, you know, like, or an entanglement where we're all vibrating at the same or close to the same?
I don't think so.
Frequency.
I equate it to the concept of lesser magic, where you might have heard the phrase, where attention goes, energy flows, right?
Yes.
As a musician, I've been on stage and I know the energy. I know what it feels like when you have a crowd of people, and big or small, it doesn't matter. You could even be playing at a party and only 5 or 10 people are watching you play. But I know what it's like. I've felt it, and they've done scientific experiments to show that even when you're not in the same room, for instance, like we've all had the feeling, so you get the feeling you're being watched, right? You have the hair on the back of your neck because someone is focusing their attention on you. It's the same thing when you think of your friend and you pick up the phone, and before you touch the phone, it rings and it's them because you were thinking of them, they were thinking of you. One of you thought of the other first, which caused the other one to think of the other one. Do you know what I mean? So
Yes.
Where your energy, so where your attention goes, the energy flows. So back to the 100 monkey concept, when you have one person thinking of you, it sometimes is strong enough to instigate you to think of them and maybe pick up the phone. When 2 or 3 or 4 people are focusing their attention on you, it's that much, more compounded.
Yes.
So in terms of the 100th monkey, when a certain percentage of the population is focusing their attention on a particular idea or piece of information, I can only suggest that it compounds to the level where I don't know, perhaps some frequency is literally sent out as an actual, literal, physical, energetic frequency that affects the consciousness of the rest of the group.
See, this is, and I'm with that whole thing. I mean, I think that's where I'm steering, where I'm focused. But I'm starting to wonder how much of this, and Aaron, you'll remember from the Mente interview that, like, how can we discern what's real? Like, through memory, how can you pull back anything? Tell me about when you're 6 years old, and how real is that now? There might be a photograph or video or whatever. How is that indistinguishable from the dream? And then how's that going to be indistinguishable from what we're talking about right now, say 20 years down the road, in this illusion of time?
That's a really good question. And that reminds me of something that I wanted to say earlier about the psychosis, because as a young man, when I played with substances and I had binges where I went many days without sleep, I actually did experience the beginning of psychosis. And from what I remember is that it was very, very much like having a dream, except actually being awake.
Yes.
It's like walking around fully awake in consciousness, and yet at the same time you're experiencing a dream while you're doing it. It's a simultaneous. It's like consciousness and unconscious, or consciousness and subconscious are they're both driving the car at the same time.
That's why I stopped doing LSD. In that same time period when I did cocaine, I was doing LSD and experimenting with all that. And it was the LSD that set me into, I did have a little snap there, and it took 3 years to get over. And it was a lot like what you just described, with a side of paranoia.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, because you're conscious, and yet at the same time you recognize that you're not fully conscious. It's almost like having a lucid dream while being awake. It's really weird.
It's weird and terrifying also.
It is.
There's nothing nice about it.
Actually, there is.
Well, for me, there was nothing nice about it. I wanted away from it at all because I felt hyper aware, and I felt like I was seeing things as they really are. I really had that sense of clarity. And yet it was so far removed from the world around me, people getting on the bus to go to work, people having lunch, and, like all that. It was so far removed from that. And that all looked so ridiculous to me. Like, how can this charade be going on when this is all happening? This other stuff that I was all of a sudden was privy to through this state of being up too long, and then a side of psychedelics.
I experienced a lack of empathy. I experienced a lack of care. And like maybe you've heard of the Bohemian Grove and the ceremony they have. It's called the cremation of care ceremony.
Yes.
I remember during my partial psychosis episode that I just didn't seem to give a shit about anything. It was like everything was a big, and I don't mean I was physically laughing or just being a jerk about stuff, but everything was a big joke. It just didn't affect you.
Yeah.
It was like everything was a big joke.
Yeah.
It was like nothing mattered. And nothing mattered, and nothing could get to me. And it was like I just didn't give a shit. I could see it. I was tripping. It was like tripping and being conscious.
So I can relate to that in my little snap. But the problem was I felt because I saw that and was in the state that it was looking back at me, that the shadows were looking back at me, that somehow I was being observed in some weird way. Like it was terrifying in that sense. Like I wanted to hide. I was actually hiding. I went to my friend's house and got under the bed. I like literally did that. So, and yet I felt like and still to this day, I will say this. I've never felt more clarity in seeing like the breakdown of this matrix. That was the most clear moment I ever had. And it was also a moment I've never wanted to revisit because it was afraid. Like I was a beacon and alerting whatever to the fact that I could see the fabric, the weave of the fabric.
Mm-hmm.
And now that's been 30 years ago.
All right, Jerry.
You old fart.
I know. I'm a Gen Xer. I mean, that puts me in there.
Yeah, me too. Oh, I'm not. I'm kind of in between. There's a question from Zach. When we go long periods without sleep and begin to feel we are in a dream, is that the subconscious trying to assert itself so that we can do whatever business the mind has while we sleep? Question.
I don't know who that's for. I mean, I think everyone here is qualified to answer anything. I'm no more qualified.
I'm just rereading it to really absorb because that's a good question there.
Well, your dreams are kind of based on your experiences in life too, right?
Yeah, I think that's part of it, but there's more.
No, there's absolutely more. I mean,
yeah.
Jerry suggested that you don't dream unless you've had certain experience, like we were talking about wet dreams.
Physical 3D experiences, yeah.
Sure. But then Niish and other people, I've heard lots of stories that, people pull back information and they learn things from their dream, things that they had never physically experienced.
Right, but they're pulling back information. They're not pulling back a physical sensation or...
Right, we pull it back and then I made it physical.
Right.
Like a download, literally like a download.
So to the question, is that the subconscious when we go without sleep and we feel we're in a dream, like I was describing my psychosis, is that the subconscious trying to assert itself?
Maybe. It's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, it's possible. I couldn't answer it for, oh yes, it's this way or that way. But
I would suggest yes.
I would suggest so too. It's kind of like
I would say that's a good probability, although
sort of a conflict between sleep and awake, right?
Well, our ego, you've got to remember that we're always operating, and I hate how negative this gets, but the ego is not a negative thing. It is how we are it's our operating, it's our UI. And I think that it fights to stay conscious. So, and we see that in dreams. I mean, I think that we're fighting because we're tied into this being me. Yet we know intellectually and maybe deeper that we're more than this physical stuff. But that is our ego, this person now, this UI that we're operating on, Niish 2.5, doesn't want to let go of that. And we see this with our death mythology. We see this with control issues. We see this in lots of ways in life. So I think we can never separate that. And look at how many, now that I'm older and I've looked at a lot of religions, look how many religions are parse that out, right? They parse that out. It's a big basis for a lot of stuff and a lot of spirituality. So with that question, yeah, I mean, I think that even going down into dream time, we have to go through our ego and we have to shed it enough to get out of it, to separate, to be lucid, to be out of body. We actually have to detach. You literally detach your energy from your shell. You get out of the car, right? But you don't want the car damaged. You're not dumping the car. Hopefully you've got it parked in a garage and it's going to be all right and you can come back to it. But that is still what we're functioning from right here. Amy, Aaron, Ian, I mean, it's, you know, it's, this is a big deal to consciousness.
Yeah. I was just reading along in the chat here, and this may throw us off topic slightly. They're Distorting Our Rhythm said that last year he dreamt the date of June 14th a few times and happened to stumble onto a very suspicious roller coaster accident.
On a June 14th?
That was up in Ohio, I remember that, or Pennsylvania.
And
that's significant.
And then he said, anyhow, his next caper is truth bombing clairvoyance. So I don't know if he's just being a smartass, but it made me think of something that I just heard today about Uri Geller, and I'm not sure if you guys heard this.
No.
You guys might know, obviously, that the JFK files are supposed to have been released.
Yeah, part of them.
and then right at the last second, they
of course
decide they're going to hold back, you know, the majority. They only released like 2,800 pages.
Right, the stuff that actually says the government is in control of you. Yeah, like the government killed him. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. You guys want to hear something hilarious? And it'll take me a second to go find it, but rather than me tell it to you, it's probably better if you just hear it yourselves. This was on Richie Allen, and he played a little clip from a BBC morning talk show that Uri Geller was invited to be. He was interviewed on this morning talk show, and he was describing how the CIA contacted him to help solve the JFK assassination. This is hilarious. You've got to. This is only about.
I'm sitting here in anticipation.
This is only about a 2-minute clip, and I'm almost
believe
there.
This, or do we don't believe this?
I'm sorry. What?
Do we believe this or not believe this?
No, we
not believe it.
No,
Okay.
this is so absurd.
Makes sense.
It couldn't be believed by anybody with a brain.
I'm starting to believe he faked his death altogether. So.
Kennedy?
Yep.
Yeah, I've heard that.
I've been researching into that.
Bobby too. And Marilyn.
Yeah, they're all high probability, I would say.
We just know we don't know the truth. I mean, we can all agree on.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we come up with conspiracy theories, is because we're not.
But that in and of itself is major.
Well, the funny thing is that Uri Geller said that it's not the CIA, it's not the mob. Lyndon Johnson had nothing to do with it. It wasn't the Russians. And he said that he oh, this is just funny. And he said that when he found out, he said it's so amazing and so profound, and then he wouldn't tell, and then he wouldn't say what it was. So
probably those aliens that saw on the moon.
Oh, excuse my French.
And
that's BS.
No, the French word for shit is merde.
Oh, that's true.
The Yiddish word is Drek.
Correct, right.
I love the Yiddish.
Okay, I think I'm. Let me
The
unmute.
character on.
You got to remember, guys,
Guardians of the
JFK was not a nice man. Okay, he was not a good guy.
No,
he was in a
wasn't.
bloodline, Illuminati bloodline. He's in the 13 families, right? He wanted it all for himself.
Well, do we think any politician is actually wonderful? Like, I mean, these people go into, but they want power no matter what.
The only way they can get in is to be corrupt as hell anyway.
Yeah.
So this new story of Kennedy being a dick, right? How does that fly with all of his wanting to shut down the CIA and how it's going to be bad, you know, and that whole, all that
he wanted
turmoil.
to take control of it himself. He wanted to throw everybody else under the bus and take control.
No, I know that, but I'm saying it's they're like counterintuitive to each other. You know, he's not really a good guy, but he's playing one on TV, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It's just interesting. It's interesting. And yeah, and the CIA, by the way, was never congressionally authorized, nor is it held to the Constitution, or is it under the president's control?
No.
Like,
well, we know it's not under president control. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing you could do about it because they were installed with a executive order.
Yeah.
All right, you guys ready? Check this out. This is hilarious. It's only about 2 minutes long.
Was behind it. The Russians are behind everything. Speaking of the JFK files and the thousands of documents released today, Good Morning Britain, ITV's morning television news program, invited Uri Geller on because Uri knows who did it. He was asked, claims Uri Geller, by the CIA to find out who did it many moons ago. But Uri Geller, well, he's not saying who did it no matter what.
But I did exactly what he wanted. So I managed to kind of wriggle myself into the right people. I asked questions, I used my powers, and I came to a stunning conclusion. Right. First of all, I do not believe that the CIA were involved, nor the FBI, nor Lyndon B. Johnson. What I found out was so stunning, and of course, I handed my information to the CIA agent.
It has to be the Tooth Fairy then. He's either going to say the Tooth Fairy did it, Santa Claus, could be Santa Claus, could be Catweasel, could be Wurzel Gummidge, because the CIA, the FBI, and Lyndon Johnson, who did it, Uri?
And I wonder whether this will be revealed today.
So look, Uri, obviously, you've ruled out, you're saying you're ruling out the US agencies, so the CIA, the FBI. You said not Lyndon B. Johnson. I think you've said previously as well, not the KGB or the mafia, they weren't involved. This stunning revelation, which we're hoping will come out in these papers, can you give us an idea of what it might be if it's not involving those agencies, Uri?
Well, look, Ben, you can imagine that everyone from all around the world wants to know this, the answer to.
He likes himself a lot, Uri Geller. He's a great self-publicist.
Pussyfoot dancing there.
Voice. I know I had the pleasure of interviewing him several times some years ago. Just tell us, Uri. Just tell us the stunning revelation. Who killed JFK?
The answer to this. And I just simply will not talk about it. If this will be revealed,
tell us.
It will be quite stunning. If it's going to be mentioned and redacted, you know, they will have the black ink over my words, that could happen. Or it might not even appear in these documents.
Oh, mother, what a load of monumental bollocks. Do you know, you could fertilize the moon and the planet Mars and grow daffodils up there for 1,000 years with the horse shit that comes out of the mouth of Uri Geller. And I interviewed him several times some years ago, so I can testify. I can testify to what a plonker he is.
A plonker? What's a plonker?
A plonker.
A plonker. It's a you know, a doofus, a idiot,
I
jerk.
I've never heard that.
You know? Oh yeah, I have. It's a Brit term, I think.
Yep, it's a British term.
I think it's in reference to taking a shit.
Oh, that's a blumpy. That's a blumpy. Different thing.
A blumpy.
Yeah.
I think it's in reference to shit because you plonk down a bunch of shit. I don't know.
Oh, Aaron, it's the way you said it. It's so
There's
good.
one who plonks. That's right. Zach's got it.
Excuse me, I have to go to the plonk room. I'll be right back.
It's the way the turds sound when they hit the toilet. Kerplunk.
A monumental plonker. That's brilliant.
You know why your turds are tapered at the end, don't you?
So your
Oh,
asshole
Lord.
doesn't slam shut.
God, are we going to get into kindergarten humor now?
It always gets down to like dicks and poop.
Yeah, if there's no dick jokes in the show, it's no good.
That's how you know the show was winding down.
I know. No, this is like a segue into the hive. Clearly.
This is
Oh
not
my
a good
God.
sign because you guys might have to start off on this level.
Yes.
Oh, dear.
Yes.
Well, we always let everyone just chill for 15, 20 minutes till we get into the good stuff.
All right. Well, Jerry, I know you got to go. I know
That's
you got
okay.
stuff to do. You got to put the family and the farm and the dogs and the cats and the kids away and get your show going. So thanks for being here. You're a good friend. We love you.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to come on anytime. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Thanks,
awesome.
Jerry, for being here.
Loved
well, we're
having both of you.
It's great talking to you guys again.
All right,
Thank
Jerry.
you.
I'm going to hop
And
over. I'll be over at your house in a few minutes.
Okay,
Thank
it's
you.
at 10:26 on 10:26, so be there or be square.
Drop the link in Skype for me. And I will be
it's
there.
in the
Yeah,
channel.
drop the link into our Skype chat, Jerry.
No, join the Slack channel. I won't use Skype.
No, it's a Zoom thing. You got to, if you don't have Zoom, you're going to have to download.
I'll put it in Skype.
Zoom
I'm
is
teasing. I'll put it in
fabulous.
Skype.
It is so great.
I'll drop it in.
I've
there.
never
No
heard
worries.
of Zoom.
You got to download an app.
Yeah, it's pretty easy, Amy. It's a fast download and it works real smooth.
It's smooth. Oh, I was on all these others. I always drop out or have issues. Zoom is always great. Always.
Okay.
Xlax, baby.
So trust it. I mean, at least give a little trust to it
You
and
don't-
experience it.
Anybody
Yeah.
happen to have a link?
You don't have to do
Share.
anything, Amy. You don't,
I'll get it. I'll take care of her.
Jerry's got you, Amy.
yeah, Amy.
Okay,
You don't have to do anything. All you really do is click. We'll drop the link in Skype on the Zoom, and you just click it. And before it lets you go in, it'll force you to download the app, and it's real fast.
Oh, okay.
And then each time you just allow and accept it for
Yep.
each time you use it.
Yes,
Super
accept
Right,
it.
right.
Super
Accept
easy.
it into your life.
Okay.
Thank
Awesome.
you. This was wonderful. What a pleasure. I was completely nervous, and y'all made this a wonderful
Told you.
experience.
Well,
You both were such pleasure to have. I tell you, I
Aw,
really enjoyed
thank
this
you.
show.
Nothing to be nervous about. We're just a bunch of conspiracy kooks. That's all.
Well, I mean, it's our stratification, right? Water seeks its own level.
Really?
Yeah.
well, you guys are both wonderful. It's been a real pleasure. It's been a real throwback, and it's been great for us to take a little bit of a break from the doom and gloom that we always typically tend to discuss. And I'm thrilled to have had the opportunity for you guys, and thanks for your time, both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks again for having us.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Niish, for being here. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you.
All right, guys. Take care.
All right, Jerry,
Bye-bye.
Nish, you guys be good.
Bye-bye.
Good night, both. Love always.
Good night. Yes, much love.
All this talk about dreams is making me tired.
That was awesome having both of them.
Mm-hmm. I knew it would be. So, I wanted to try to get to, where you and both Ian and you, Amy, both were answering some of the questions. Obviously, we've pretty well run ourselves out of time, but we can explore, more of this at any given time. I wanted to throw a couple of things at you that I didn't do at the beginning of the show, like I often do. Ian, I know that you're probably gonna trip out on this little goblet of information. The Gothard Tunnel, right? That we've talked about on many occasions, right?
Gotthard Tunnel. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen, by any chance, our friend Charles Koss? Have you seen his most recent video?
No, I didn't get a chance. I seen it pop up. I didn't see it.
Well, wouldn't you like to know that the Egyptian pharaoh known as Khufu,
Yep.
is also known in the Germanic language as Gotthard. Goddard.
Oh, okay. All right. Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, so the Goddard Tunnel is an homage.
Homage to Khufu.
Uh-huh. It's homage to Khufu. Yeah.
Très intéressant.
Oh,
Yeah.
we all know it was a real pagan ritual. We could see it. Like they had the branches on their heads and everything. It was...
Yeah. So have you guys heard the FBI fooled a plot to blow up a Florida mall?
Oh yeah.
It's called the Dolphin Mall, and they claim that this guy had a weapon of mass destruction and he was planning on destroying the entire mall. And obviously, thank God the FBI was there, Johnny on the spot, to fool the plot, right? And the FBI said he never actually had any real bomb-making material. And you know what? Doesn't that sound familiar?
Yes.
Yeah. Just the same old story rehashed again,
Yeah,
Yep.
it's another
pieces changed around.
Yeah, it's another situation where they groom this guy.
Yeah.
And set him up so that they could arrest him, so that they could come on TV and say, "Look what a great job we're doing."
I just seen a bullshit article as well about Adam Lanza the other day, how the FBI had visited him before. But to me, Adam Lanza did not exist. So.
The photoshopped.
Ryan was Adam.
Yes.
Ryan was originally Adam, and then changed his name to Ryan. And then they created Adam out of the Phantom Ryan.
They took his photos and
Phantom.
popped his eyes out in Photoshop and gave him a single curl across his forehead.
Yeah.
Unibrow. Yes.
So here's a headline that caught my attention this week. Enhanced TSA passenger screening will now be implemented to the point where they're going to start interrogating people, and they'll ask you questions like, "Where are you going?"
Oh Lord.
Does my ticket not give you a clue?
Thank you, Amy.
I'm going to where the ticket's at. The plane is going to take me there.
I would say, I'm going to school to learn how to read a fucking boarding pass that says exactly where I'm fucking going.
Yes.
That's where I'm going. I'm going to learn how to be a TSA supervisor so I can fucking fire you. Okay. Have you heard the latest scoop on Stephen Paddock?
No, what now?
Well, I heard Jesus Campos went to Mexico on a secret trip.
Yeah, I heard he left the country.
Secret, but he left the country.
Yep. Okay. So,
if he even exists as well, we don't even know.
Okay.
He exists either.
Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. It's fine. The latest pile of shit that come out of the FBI now is that the laptop that they recovered from his hotel room is missing its hard drive.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I did read that. I mean, this is just...
how convenient. Oh my gosh, we can't figure it out now. We don't have a hard drive.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
This is a guy who supposedly was so meticulous as that little piece of paper on the nightstand, that little pink piece of note paper.
Yes, he calculated everything down to the T.
Yeah, he calculated his trajectory, and he had everything worked out. And he was so smart that he removed the hard drive from his laptop. But why the fuck would you bring a laptop to your hotel room if it didn't have a hard drive in it?
Without a hard drive. Oh God. Oh, I guess they're figuring out what people eat this shit and think it tastes good.
They're pissing on us without giving us the courtesy of calling it rain.
But most people really think, this thing's really fishy, right? Like most people really do. They can't get past the cognitive dissonance of it all. Right?
Oh yeah, but I mean, still, it has woken up a lot of people because, like I said, man, even the non-conspiracy people are talking about this one.
Yeah, they're saying it's fishy. Nothing adds up. The story keeps changing.
Well, here I got another one for you. Bruce Paddock, the brother, not the one who gave the interviews, but this is the brother who lived in California.
Yeah, the weirdo
was just arrested for child porn.
Well, he's obviously getting smeared for something.
Yeah, no,
you never know. He was pretty weird. Did you guys see the interview with him?
Which one?
They interviewed him shortly after.
No, not Bruce.
Not the one that was arrested for child porn.
No, there's another brother.
Oh, another brother. Oh, his other brother,
yes. The brothers are popping out of the woodwork.
His other brother, Daryl. His other brother, Daryl. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I didn't know he had another brother.
Yeah. I said it wasn't the one who gave the interviews. This is another brother who lives in California.
Yes.
That guy seemed like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
And there's another brother I heard about that lives in Florida that has no comment. Mike, I think it was. Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah, it gets more cartoonish as they go along. As they try to cover it up, it gets more cartoonish.
Have you guys seen it? Have you seen any of the Sandy Hook documents that they supposedly released?
Yeah, they're all redacted.
Yeah, they're all redacted.
Oh, geez. Well, typical.
No, of course. I mean, they'll never release the truth.
So isn't it funny that the reason that they withheld the JFK documents, the ones that they were supposed to release, but decided the last very fucking second that to withhold, the excuse was national security, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course. That's that's the best excuse.
What could possibly be in those documents that would threaten national security 75 years later?
There is something. No, there is something. I'll tell you what it is. In those documents is proof that the conspiracy theorists were right.
Yeah.
And that threatens their national security.
That's right. That's exactly it.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah.
But I mean, seriously, anybody with a brain, what could legitimately be national security in something? You know what I mean?
If it was a real event.
If it was Lee Harvey Oswald, how could our current national security be threatened by releasing those documents?
Yeah. We got all these dead people, and it was years and years and decades ago. Why? There's nothing in a legitimate. If it had been a legitimate occurrence, there'd be no reason to keep it secret.
Now, it's kind of interesting. Somebody made an interesting point. I can't remember. It may be Jeff Rents or something. They're saying that all of this Hillary Clinton stuff and all of these James Comey stories and all this distraction stuff, right, could all be perfectly timed at this moment when these documents were supposed to be released as well, to take a lot of focus off of the release of the JFK.
No doubt.
Right.
They throw in a big soup pot of crap.
With the Russian dossier and all this stuff going on, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, there's one thing that I do want to focus back on. I want to double back before we close out. I want to suggest to you, Amy, and to you, Ian, because you guys are some of the closest people I know regarding my internet friends. And even though we're in different time zones, which is going to make it really difficult for Ian and us, but Amy, you and I are in the same time zone, so we go to bed roughly the same time. I would suggest that we begin a concerted effort to practice having similar or same dreams or perhaps meeting and or interacting with each other in a dream. Like one day I expect you to hit me on Skype and say, I had a dream last night and you were in it. You know
Well,
what I mean?
if I start remembering my dreams, that may be effective.
Yeah, that's really helpful, because I know most of the time you don't remember the dream, and then
I don't. It's not that not just that I don't remember the dream, but I have absolutely no awareness that I even dreamt at all. I wake up and I'm off and running and not thinking about dreaming at all.
oh well, I guess that's going to have to be your first step. You're going to have to start practicing being more aware of.
I guess believe me, I used to remember my dreams vividly every night, and then in my early 20s, they just quit, and for 40, not quite 40 years, but getting there.
Well,
I just haven't. There have been, like, I can count them on one hand, dreams I remembered.
Well, anybody
years.
listening to me right now, if you're interested in taking part of this experiment of trying to collude with each other to focus our attention or our consciousness in some way and try to somehow connect in a dream state, I'm going to be trying to look for people, roughly in my time zone. I'm in the Eastern time zone. I'm in Atlanta, so you can go from there. And if you're in my time zone or near it and you're interested, then contact me. And what we'll do is we'll start to organize our intentions, and we'll try to figure out how to put this into practice. And that's just something that I've been wanting to do since I'm a kid. And it's about time now that I have a little bit more of a worldwide audience and a bigger reach, and I can expand to people who are maybe interested in the subject. So if anybody's interested, just hit me up, send me a message, on my YouTube channel, or leave me a comment under this video. But get in touch with me if you're interested, because I want to really seriously put this into practice in some way.
Well, I will certainly work on keeping up. I mean, it's like all the time I go to bed and think, okay, I'm going to remember my dreams tonight. And the next morning it's nothing. I will say this, though. In the last week and a half-ish, I have actually gone, yeah, okay, I know I dreamt. What I dreamt, I don't know, but at least I know I dreamt. But it's only been a week out of the last 40-ish, not quite 40 years. So who knows? Maybe I will be successful.
Well, let's give it a try. And anybody else who wants to try, I'm going off of the premise that we should be asleep at the same time. Now, I don't know if I don't know. I have a feeling that that's probably the best way to do it. But then again, there are people all around the world. We have a lot of European friends and a couple of Australian friends who may be interested. So I don't know. I just don't know. Consciousness, exploring your ability to manipulate it and use it. That's just sort of obviously it's a new field for all of us. So let's just tiptoe our way through this and see what we can do. I really, really, really want to get with a group of people who on a regular basis, like every night, have, as you lay down, like put an intention, focus your attention, and try to put intention into having a particular dream. And I would like to see if we can do something with our consciousness. It's about time we tried.
I agree.
And it's fun. It's just something to think about, something to try. It may work, it may not work.
So,
we might.
So what are we going to agree to dream about?
Each other. We could pick an arbitrary place. And that place could be anywhere. That place could be
Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, it could be anywhere.
Okay, we're going with the Mount Rushmore, Aaron.
No, we're not.
Have you been there before, Amy?
Yes.
So you both have a mental footprint of it, right?
Well, that's actually not a bad idea right there on that level. But Amy used to live around Atlanta area. She and I have been to a few places.
I wouldn't say I lived around the Atlanta area.
Well,
it was over 2 hours away.
In Georgia. Okay, so there are other places in Georgia that we could probably pick, or even look. You know what? Amy and I both lived in Las Vegas.
Yes, we did.
So I mean, I had a bad experience at Rushmore. I'll tell you later.
How about the Luxor?
Mandalay Bay.
I think the Luxor would be more interesting.
Well, thanks again, everybody who's in the chat. Baron Von Taco Cat, always good to see. We Are Free, Greatest Potential, Zach Hawkins, Blue Blood, of course. Thanks again. Blood Sword.
Hey, Amy, our new friend, the Bardamon.
Bardamon, yeah.
Do you Bart? What time zone, Amy? Do you know?
I believe he's Pacific.
Okay. Bardamon, what time zone are you in? I know there's a 20-second delay.
Big P99, Wade 57, Marie T. Thanks, guys.
The Bardaman said we should go for Georgia Guidestones.
I've been there twice, so there is a physical footprint.
I've never been.
Distorting Our Rhythm said he can't shake the dream of Queen Elizabeth touching her toes.
I bet.
See, I got Zach Hawkins, who also lives here in Georgia. So if Zach is interested, then maybe, me and you and Zach. The Bardaman said he's interested in taking part in our experiment, our dream experiment. But I think we can get at least a handful of people to try. And, some of us may be better than others. And like you said, a lot of times you don't remember your dream. But here's the thing. The hardest part is going to be remembering on a nightly basis to give it a try. Because you don't just forget about it after 1 or 2 nights. This is going to be an ongoing experiment. And the hardest part is going to be every night when you lay down, right before you go to sleep, you have to focus your attention and remember that you're supposed to do this. Because myself, even though I'm highly, highly interested, I often forget to try to do it.
Yeah, I put a little message on your pillow.
Yeah.
Put a piece of paper and then take it off, go to sleep, put it back on when you get up.
Big P wants to meet in the White House.
Yeah.
Eek.
Hey, the Big P, you're in the UK, is that correct? Anybody know? Big P's in the UK, right?
I think so.
And Bardamon answered me. He's in Pacific.
You got to wait 15 seconds for him to see it, to hear you.
Yeah, a 20-second delay, yeah. And Bart replied, he's in Pacific, Alameda, California. So Bardamon is in the same time zone as Ian, and Amy and I are in the same time zone.
Yep. And we're in the same time zone with Mark, too.
So what time is bedtime?
Yeah, that's the thing. We got to get the bedtime set.
I'm wondering if Newcastle, the Big P is in Newcastle. You know, Big P, I was born in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. Small world, eh?
What a coinky dink.
Yeah. See, I was just wondering if the bedtime really is, I don't know. I would think that it would be. I would think that both of us or all of us being asleep at the same time would
facilitate things.
Yes, thank you. Now the Pacific, Ian, and Bart, you guys are only 3 hours, 4 hours, 3 hours.
3 hours.
Yeah, 3 hours.
Well, we can still do it. It just wouldn't be, for us, we'd be asleep early, obviously, and then a couple of hours later, you would be asleep. And so there will be times where we're all asleep at the same time. So we could still try it.
True.
Well, just save us some leftovers at the White House before we get there.
Yeah, I hear the buffet is wonderful.
Probably non-GMO.
Don't drink all the coffee before I get there.
Probably not a buffet.
So it'll be all non-GMO, that's for sure. Non-fluoride water.
Yep.
All right, folks. So any last words before we skedaddle? Oh, you're not going to be here next week, right, Aaron?
Yeah, Bart was just asking if I'm going to make it to next week's show. At this moment, I don't know. I won't know until Friday if I can get a good enough Wi-Fi signal. And I'm just going to tell you now that the chances are that probably won't happen. So there's a pretty good
low probability that you'll
and
be
by
there next
and
week.
by the way, we can go ahead and take now and announce that Bart will be joining us next Friday. So
that's right.
The Bartamon is in the chat and he'll be on the show next Friday. And I highly regret not being here if I'm not here. And this is a smart guy and he's got a lot to offer. So you guys have a good show if I'm not here. And if I am, I'll try to be here. But
I imagine we will have a wonderful show.
Well, we should probably,
without you. Especially with that. Never mind.
We'll have to, Bartamon, you'll have to contact us, I guess. I don't know, private message or something.
Amy's already got him on
contact. Yeah, I've got him contacted. Not a problem.
Okay, so we can decide what the topics will be in that. So. Alrighty.
Oh, he gave us a list that's quite
extensive.
Impressive.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Sounds like this guy could go anywhere. So you guys will have fun with or without me.
Yep.
Ian, whenever you're ready to take us out, thanks everybody for being here. This was a good show.
Love always.
And much love to everybody.
Thanks again, everybody, for being here. See you next time.
Thank you.